Chapter 395. The sudden truth stunned the few of them, especially Yin Hung. His entire body started to shake. He stood rooted to the ground for a long time, as if he had lost his divine soul. But the surrounding illusions turned and returned to the scene of Song Ren's first life. It was like a movie that was playing on loop. I Ching and Lo Mun's expressions were complicated. They finally knew where Song Ren's strange hatred towards Yin Hung came from. There was also the endless stream of grievous energy that even Shorty could not get rid of. Why was it that he could only get rid of it when Shening was around? Subconsciously, he probably still wanted to seek justice. Even the heavenly Tao could not give him justice. Only Shening could. Yet in this matter, it was impossible to tell who was right and who was wrong. His tragic fourth life was indeed pitiful. But no matter which life it was, what Yin Hung did was indeed a great thing to save the world. If he did not stop the plane storm, perhaps not just Song Ren, but everyone in the small world would probably die. Even their souls would be lost in the cracks between planes, never to be reincarnated. Yin Hung chose the best way. He even sacrificed himself time and time again. He risked his soul to save the world. So he received the sincere gratitude of everyone in the world. He received a body full of merit and blessings from the heavens. He was favored by the heavens in every life. From the perspective of justice, no one could say that his choice was wrong. Even if he sacrificed Song Ren, compared to the whole world, one person was too small. So everyone chose to ignore his voice. Everyone forgot to ask him if he was willing or not. Yin Hung might have let down everyone in the world, but he had let down Song Ren. Why didn't Moldy Ghost's body light up? Shening tilted her head and suddenly asked a question. I Ching paused for a moment. Knowing that Lone Moon was asking about merit, he explained in a low voice. Master, although doing good deeds can accumulate merit, there is no specific boundary between good and evil. Therefore, only by receiving sincere gratitude from others can one obtain merit. Oh, Shening frowned. So, no one has ever been grateful to Moldy Ghost? I Ching did not reply, and his expression darkened. In his first life, no one knew that he had a part in saving the world. In his second life, he was forced to the altar by everyone. In his third life, there was no need to talk about him. He was a great devil to begin with. Not to mention gratitude, there were countless people who hated him. That was why he became more and more unlucky in each life. Yet because of the fusion of their souls in the first life, he and Yin Hung had a connection. They would be entangled together in every life. Hey, what do you plan to do about this? Lone Moon nudged Shening and pointed at Yin Hung, who was still in a daze. Huh? Shening looked confused. What does this have to do with me? What ah? Lone Moon glared at her. This illusion is very clear. Song Ren is looking for you to uphold justice. Sigh, so troublesome. Troublesome, your sister. We have to solve it, right? What should we do? Shening tilted her head and thought for a moment. How about cold dressing? This kind of world-class conundrum was really taxing on the brain. Speaking of coleslaw, I suddenly remembered that I haven't had dinner yet. Did Chef bring any stock? So hungry. Yes, Master. Master will be ready soon. I Ching nodded vigorously. Very professionally, he took out 4, 5, 6, 10 dishes from his storage bag. He even set down the table, chairs, bowls, and chopsticks. He gestured for Shening to take a seat first. With a twist of his hand, he summoned the true phoenix fire. With a sizzling sound, the dishes that were originally a little cold became hot in an instant. An alluring aroma wafted out. Master, we can eat now. Cook that plate of pork knuckle a little more. I like crispy ones. Yes, Master, no problem, Master. Lone Moon. Son of AB***, at least take a look at where you are right now. We are still in an illusion. Do you think you are watching a movie? You are eating at a table in front of everyone? He had the urge to flip the table. He glanced at a certain someone who was already eating. The corner of his mouth twitched. After a while, he sat down at the table and waited for her to finish eating. In the originally dangerous and unpredictable illusion, the scene changed. The three of them sat around the table and ate crazily. Not far away, a person stood motionless in a daze. Hey, I say, recently, have you been eating more and more? Chef, give me one more bowl. Yes, Master, no problem, Master. 2 hours later, Ning, who had finally finished eating, glanced at Yin Hung, who had finally regained his senses. He was kneeling in front of her with a determined look on his face. Have you decided? Yes. He cupped his fists in response. All the shock and confusion from before were gone. I have already remembered what happened in my previous lives. Exalted masters, please no. Exalted immortals, please grant me my wish. You have to think clearly. Lone Moon stepped forward and reminded him in a low voice. You originally had the potential to ascend. If you give up now in your next life, no, you may never be able to ascend. I did all that not to become an immortal. He smiled. It was different from the kind smile he had before. Instead, he looked a little relieved. What's more, I am the one who wronged him. The justice that he wants should naturally be paid by me. Lone Moon frowned. Seeing his insistence, he could only sigh. After a while, he could not help but ask, in those previous lives, do you regret it? No. He did not even hesitate as he shook his head. If I could do it all over again, I would still choose to do the same. In the face of righteousness, sacrifice is inevitable, even if I have to bear more hatred. It's just that. I hope that I can have a chance to make it up to him. At that moment, Lone Moon did not know how to evaluate this matter. He was clearly a good person. For 4 lives, he had taken it upon himself to save the world. He even sacrificed himself time and time again. Yet he was the one who caused Song Ren's soul to dissipate again and again. His resentment soared to the heavens. This is already the best idea I can think of. Yin Hung clenched his fists by his side and said, even if it might be meaningless, at least give him a fair chance. All right. Ning nodded and glanced at Chef beside her. Only then did I Ching conjure a seal with one hand. A beam of white light flew out from his hand, and there was a loud clang. The entire illusion immediately broke into thousands of pieces and disappeared like a broken mirror. They once again returned to the northern region that was filled with Yin Qi. However, there was an additional black figure hovering in the air a few meters in front of them. He floated in the air, surrounded by pitch-black resentment that was as dark as ink, carrying a violent and crazy aura. Although they could not see his figure clearly, they could feel that there were 2 sharp blade-like gazes directed at Yin Hung, as if they were going to pierce through him. Yin Hung took a few steps forward and looked up at the black figure in the air. He could not tell what emotions he was feeling. Guilt, regret, or relief. There were all sorts of emotions. He stared at the black figure for a while, then said in a low voice, I know it's too late to do anything now, but I hope to give you a chance to start over. As soon as he finished speaking, the black figure in the air seemed to have lost control. Suddenly, it turned into a black fog, covering the sky and earth as it pounced towards Yin Hung. Like a sharp blade, it pierced several holes in Yin Hang's body. Glaring fresh blood stained his entire body. But with his last breath, Yin Hung conjured a seal with both hands. In the next moment, a red light lit up. The blood in his body surged out crazily, directly turning into chains that trapped the entire ball of resentment chi. A huge golden array appeared in the air, covering the 2 people below. Yin Hang's hands did not stop moving, quickly conjuring array seals. Then he said word by word, I am willing to use my blood to build your vitality. I am willing to use my soul to forge your divine soul. I sacrifice everything I have in exchange for your rebirth. Chapter 396. Suddenly, the golden light shone brightly. The grievous aura in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something, and began to surge into Yin Hang's body. And a nearly transparent soul floated out of the grievous aura, and slowly rose into the golden array above. Yin Hang's body also began to float out. Specks of fluorescent light from the soul gathered on the soul above. Song Ren's almost transparent soul, which had been swallowed by the grievous aura, began to solidify at a speed visible to the naked eye. Traces of red blood chi also began to gather towards the other party. That solidified soul immediately became alive. Finally, it changed from a ghost soul to a living soul. Only then did Yin Hung stop. His entire body was clearly surrounded by grievous aura, but his mouth revealed a sliver of a smile. And, I'm sorry. The grievous aura on his body was instantly purified. His entire body also became fainter and fainter. In the next moment it completely disappeared. Only a speck of fluorescent light floated out. Lone Moon conjured a seal, and kept the last remnant of Yin Heng's soul. He sighed. This time, he did not know how long he had to stay in the river of forgetfulness before he had a chance to reincarnate. I Ching also conjured a seal toward Song Run, who had already turned into a living soul. In the next moment, that solidified soul turned into a ball of light and flew into his palm. What do you plan to do with this living soul? Lone Moon asked. Although Song Run had already turned into a living soul, his body had long been eaten clean by deviant ghosts. His soul could not return to his body. Before long, he would become a ghost again. Father Neo, do you still have Radish's dandelion? I Ching suddenly asked. You still use dandelion? Lone Moon's eyes widened. Wasn't this a little too much? Wasn't it enough to have an eyesore at home? He was attached to Radish's flower previously. His soul was already infected with his immortal qi, so using that illusion is the best. And the current situation did not allow them to think of any other way. Otherwise, they would have wasted Yin Heng's efforts. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Still, he took out a flower from the storage bag beside him and handed it over. I Ching immediately conjured a seal to set up an array. In a short while, a human figure slowly formed in the array. He placed the living soul in his hand into the array. In a short while the array light faded. There was one more person on the ground. Compared to the appearance of Radish before, the human figure now was exactly the same as his soul. However, because he had just been reborn, he would not be able to wake up for a while. Done. Shening clapped her hands. We can go home and eat. Get back here. Lone Moon grabbed a certain person who was about to escape, and pointed at the disorderly river of forgetfulness, and the sky full of Yin Qi. You call this settled? Father Neo, shut up. Lone Moon glared at her. Before this river of forgetfulness recovers, none of you can escape. Aya. So troublesome. Troublesome my ass. I didn't ask you to do anything. Just stay here, and don't King run around. With that said, he glanced at I Ching beside him. Chef, call Shorty over to help too. I Ching nodded and took out his communication talisman. Lone Moon scanned the surroundings once more. The river of forgetfulness was strewn all over the place like hanging noodles. Instantly, he felt his head hurt even more. The plane crack was something that even the god fiend could only seal temporarily, with the help of primordial chaos, and the others from another plane. No matter what, Yun Heng was just a mortal. If he could solve it with just his sacrificial soul, Kai Tian would not have had to look for a manager so frantically. Yun Heng only used the power of the river of forgetfulness to cover it temporarily. The gap had always been there. This layer of cover was still very weak. It would not be long before it reappeared. And because he forcefully borrowed the power of the river of forgetfulness, it also caused chaos in the river of forgetfulness of this world. It disrupted the reincarnation of this world. So a fault was formed here that one could only enter but not exit. What's more, this river of forgetfulness was a part of the main branch of this small world. In other words, it was possible that half of the souls that flowed through here were forced to stay here. And because the river of forgetfulness was distorted, it caused their souls to collapse and become remnant souls. And there were more and more remnant souls. That should be how the northern land was formed. Although remnant souls had no consciousness, they would instinctively want to return to the river of forgetfulness. That was why these remnant souls would attack the mortal territories in a frenzy, because only the river of forgetfulness could allow them to re-enter reincarnation. Yet they were intercepted by mystic cultivators who did not know the truth, and did not let them enter. They could not reincarnate, and could not return to the river of forgetfulness. It was no wonder that they would produce grievances. It was not strange that they became violent and man-eating. The only solution was to let the river of forgetfulness return to its original state, and send all remnant souls into reincarnation. The most important thing was to patch up that plane gap. But there were really too many faults in the river of forgetfulness here, and they were scattered everywhere. Even with Shorty around, he and I Ching spent a long time before they slowly pulled those messy rivers back. That's right, 2 people. Not including a certain troublemaker who watched the whole show and ate melon seeds. Aya, aren't I guarding the moldy ghost? He hasn't woken up yet. What if he gets moldy again? Shenning said seriously. The corner of Lomun's mouth twitched. You're just King lazy. Songren was already reborn and not a ghost. How could he get moldy? It's done. Before Lomun could fly into a rage, I Ching pulled the last half of the River of Forgetfulness back to its original position. The entire River of Forgetfulness was finally restored and started to flow again. Beside him, Shorty also waved toward the sky full of Yin Qi. She was Mengpa after all. Instantly, countless lights lit up. Thousands of remnant souls returned to the River of Forgetfulness. The Yin Qi dissipated completely. As if the clouds had been pulled out to see the sun, the surroundings suddenly shone with bright light. The originally dark and gloomy northern land was instantly lit up. Although it was still a piece of scorched earth, it no longer had the gloomy aura of the past. There were still some wisps of spirit qi in the air. Thinking about it carefully, it was normal. Looking at Yun Heng's first life in the illusion, he knew that the spirit qi of this small world should not be less than that of other small worlds. But later on, the plane gap appeared. Together with the chaos in the River of Forgetfulness, it affected this world. That was why the spirit qi became thinner and thinner. Finally, it caused the inheritance of cultivators to be cut off. Now that the River of Forgetfulness was restored, naturally the spirit qi would return. Only he looked up. Indeed, in the next moment the air twisted. A pitch-black hole suddenly appeared, as if the sky was being torn apart. He subconsciously turned to look at a certain foodie beside him, but he saw her clenching her fists and making an encouraging gesture. All the best, Father Niu. You can do it. Get lost. You just don't want to do it, right? Thinking about it carefully, that assistant handbook that he spent a few months to understand, he indeed wanted to give it a try. So he turned to look at I Ching. Chef, you go left and I'll go right. Let's try using the sky-mending array. I Ching nodded, turned and flew to the left. Lomun flew to the right. The two of them activated the array at the same time, and directly turned on the assistant authority. Indeed, in the next moment, a strange power spread throughout his body and flowed into that array. They saw that pitch-black hole in the middle slowly shrink and become smaller and smaller. In less than half a fruit's time, that black hole had completely disappeared. Even that violent suction force was completely gone. Chapter 397. Lomun brought up the plane data to take a look, then took out a small notebook to compare. When he found that the data was the same, and there would be no more gaps, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the assistant handbook was right. The plane assistant had the ability to repair the plane. The props like the bandages that Shenning gave him previously were only supplementary. On the importance of reading the user manual hashtag, I Ching was stunned too. He did not think that array formations could really solve the plane gap. He thought about it carefully. When Master used Radish's dandelion to repair the hundreds of plane cracks, she did not seem to use any special props. Suddenly, he thought of something and looked up at Lomun. Father Niu, I think recently Master. I know. Lomun did not wait for him to finish, and nodded directly. He turned back to look at Shenning, who was trying to wake the unlucky ghost on the ground with a stick. A trace of worry flashed across his eyes. She will say it when she wants to. Lomun flew back and picked up the corpse on the ground. Things are settled. Let's go back. Back to the immortal realm? Shorty was stunned. But aren't Uncle Master Cu and the others still here? Let's bring the moldy Songren back to the immortal realm first. Songren's illusory body was formed from Radish's dandelion. He was also a living soul. Once he entered the body, the illusory body became his real body. In a sense, he was already an immortal body, but he had never cultivated before, so he could not stay in this small world. He could only bring him back. Lomun sent a message to Cu and the others as he opened the realm gate in the sky. No one hesitated. I Ching brought Shenning and flew over on his sword. Lomun carried the still unconscious Song Run and hesitated for a moment. Then he flew in too. Why did he feel like he forgot something? He could not remember it. Forget it, it was not important anyway. Not far away, the red-black couple who had just escaped from the grievous Qi. Winky faced, their hearts hurt. Songren woke up. Perhaps because of his previous experience, The illusory body that I Ching created merged very well with his soul. There was no rejection at all. But because he was not familiar with the use of immortal qi, he still needed others to transfer immortal qi to him, to maintain his human form. Other than that, there were no other problems. But, who are you? He looked at the people in front of him blankly. After a while he looked at himself. Who am I? I Ching. Lone Moon. Shining. Lone Moon's expression changed. He scanned I Ching from head to toe. I Ching grabbed I Ching's hand and released a sliver of God power to check I Ching's primordial spirit. A moment later he shook his head. I'm fine. I Ching's soul showed no signs of grievance. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief. They had thought that he had lost his memory due to the influence of resentment, just like last time. Now it seemed that he had let it go. Yunheng risked his soul to be destroyed in exchange for his rebirth. Finally, Yunheng forgave him and let him go. It was better to forget everything now. You really don't remember at all? His expression became even more confused. He tried hard to think, but after a while he shook his head. I don't remember anything at all. Who am I? Where is this place? This is the invincible heavenly palace. You. Lone Moon hesitated. After a while he said, you are a new disciple of my invincible sect. You had just started cultivating when something went wrong. That's why you were injured, seriously injured. Your body can't be used anymore. So we attached you to a dandelion. You're fine now. Just focus on cultivating in the future. I'm a dandelion? I Ching looked shocked. He did not doubt what Lone Moon said. Then you are? Of course we are your teachers. I am the sect's managing elder Lone Moon. He pointed to the other two. There, that's the sect master eating the fruit. The one who passed the fruit is Chef. Elder I Ching. As for the rest of the sect, I will send someone to introduce you to them later. Only then did he nod his head. He still had a puzzled look on his face, and was about to ask something else, when the door was pushed open with a bang. Little Missy. A certain vegetable rushed in like a cannonball. He scanned the room, and his eyes fixed on Shining. He pounced on her. You're finally back. Seeing that he was about to pounce on her, I Ching, who was at the side, was very calm and natural. He silently stretched out a leg. The next moment, Radish lost his footing and fell to the ground. The dandelions in his hands scattered all over the room. Radish was obviously used to falling. He threw away the flower stalks in his hands, and was too lazy to get up. He sat on the ground and tugged at the corner of Shin Ying's clothes. Little Missy, Radish misses you so much. When you weren't around, no one watered me. Look. He pulled at his hair and said with a pitiful look, my leaves are split. Shuning slowly finished eating the fruit in her hand. She replied, oh, little Missy, how could you leave just like that? You didn't even bring Radish to play? He felt even more wronged. Radish is about to grow mushrooms. And why is this ugly thing back? He saw Song run at the side and sized him up. His face was full of disdain. He remembered this person who ruined big sister Little Hong's dual cultivation ceremony. He confirmed with his eyes that this was an annoying person. You came at the right time. Lone Moon stepped forward. He will be a disciple of our sect in the future. Bring him around the sect and familiarize him. Ask Lan Hua to make arrangements for him. I'm not going. Radish rejected directly. He wasn't Little Missy. He didn't like it. Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He wanted to stew it at any moment. His true body is also a plant. You are considered the same as him. If you don't take care of him, who will? Really? Radish hesitated for a moment. He stood up and looked at him. Indeed, he felt the spirit chi of the plants on him. It was very familiar. Suddenly, he felt that he wasn't that ugly anymore. He looked at him even more seriously. This is? Song Rin felt goosebumps from his stare. He subconsciously looked at Lone Moon beside him. Don't you remember? He's Radish. He's the sex. He thought for a moment before giving an adjective. Pet. What was a pet? You're from the same sect as him. Regarding cultivation, you can ask. Forget it. You should ask Lan Hua. Radish's mischievous personality was a bad influence. Oh yes, your body was given to you by Radish. My body? Song Ren was shocked. He looked at Radish in disbelief. His eyes widened. Many complicated emotions flashed across his face. After a while he nodded heavily. I understand. He then took a step forward. Gritting his teeth, he seemed to have made up his mind about something. He cupped his fists in the direction of Radish and called out respectfully. Dad. Lone Moon. I Ching. Shuning. Radish. For all, nanny. Chapter 398. Radish did not expect that when it went to send flowers to little Missy every day, it would bring a son. As a sexist person, Radish did not like the sudden appearance of a son, mainly because he was not a little Missy, until Lone Moon told him that out of the hundreds of disciples in Invincible sect, he was the first to have a son, the only one in the entire heavenly palace, and very precious. Only then did he put away his temper and happily accept the dandelion, with the intention of teaching it everything he knew. But because of Song Ren's amnesia, he accepted the fact that he was a plant spirit very quickly. Not only did he follow Radish everywhere and bully the immortal cranes, he also followed Radish to the back of the mountain to squat in the pit every day, waiting for people to come and water it. Therefore, the disciples of the sect soon discovered that the person who would not rest until he caused a ruckus in the sect every day was a dandelion besides the radish. Every day, he would either pluck the fur of a spirit beast or pluck the flower of a newly bloomed immortal herb. Lone Moon could not help but wonder if the decision to acquiesce to the relationship between the two was a little rash, just to make it easier for Song Ren to cultivate. But there were too many things to do in the sect. He could not spare any attention. In addition, he had to go down to the lower realm from time to time to take care of the previous small world and the progress of the cultivator's studies. The matter of the river of forgetfulness had been resolved, and the spirit chi in that world was beginning to recover. Of course, the matter of imparting Tao and cultivating had to continue. Otherwise, if they went to the river of forgetfulness at every turn and created another northern land full of remnant souls, they would really be busy to death. Apart from Lan Hua and Shorty, Siyu was the disciple with the highest cultivation level in the sect. She was already half a step to exalted immortal. With her around, Lone Moon could rest assured. It was just that once they went down to the lower realm, the sect naturally lacked manpower. And it was time for the immortal herb trade with the various continents that happened once every 100 years. He was so busy that his feet did not even touch the ground. Only then did he realize that something seemed to be missing. Holy shit! Yu Hong was still in the lower realm. No wonder the red and black couple, who had been in the lower realm for a few months, were finally brought back. You're saying that you're trapped in the north by grievous energy? Lone Moon glanced at the exhausted couple who had just been brought back. Elder. Yu Hong's face was full of guilt. I was not skilled enough. That's why I was trapped by the grievous energy and could not report back in time. Please punish me, sect master and elder. Madam, how can I blame you? Before Lone Moon could speak, Little Black, who was at the side, immediately said worriedly, who would have thought that the grievous energy was so strong? We didn't even have time to react before we were pulled down to the lower realm and trapped in that damned place. But if my cultivation level was high enough, the two of us wouldn't be so helpless. We wouldn't have to trouble sect leader to find us personally. Yu Hong's face was still full of guilt. According to what you said, this matter should be your husband's fault. Little Black pulled her hand and said apologetically, I didn't protect you well, which caused us to be trapped by resentment. If you want to punish someone, punish me. Little Black. Yu Hong glared at him. This is our sect's matter. Don't mess around. I don't care. Little Black tightened his grip on her hand and said affectionately, I'm a member of Invincible sect since I married you. I'm your devil in life, and your dead devil in death. If you want to punish me together. If you want to die, enough, the two of you. Lone Moon could not help but interrupt the two of them. If you want to show off your affection, can you do it in the house? We don't want to eat it. Yu Hong, you're saying that in the few months you were in the lower realm, you were trapped in the north and never left? Yes. Yu Hong nodded. That place was full of yin qi, and there was no daylight. Little Black and I couldn't get rid of the grievous energy, and we didn't dare to rush out. Then were you injured? Loman's heart sank. It was Song Ren's grievous energy that pulled them down to the lower realm. That grievous energy could rush up to the immortal realm. Little Black aside, it would be difficult for Yu Hong to resist it with her cultivation level. Most importantly, she was trapped for a few months. I didn't. She seemed to have thought of something as her face turned red. She glanced at Little Black beside her before continuing. Fortunately, Little Black has a Dharma treasure that can temporarily open up a small mystic realm. So for the past few months, the two of us have been in that mystic realm and have not been injured by the resentment. Then, we sensed that the surrounding yin qi had disappeared, so we left the mystic realm. Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief as long as she was not injured. Don't worry, madam. Little Black immediately smiled like a flower and said affectionately, as long as your husband is here, I won't let you get hurt no matter what. With that said, he grabbed her hand and kissed it. Yu Hong's blush deepened. She looked up and looked at him. Immediately, their eyes met and pink bubbles seemed to appear all around them. Everyone could vaguely hear the sound of dog food falling. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. He hurriedly waved his hand to chase them away. All right. The two of you can go and rest. Yu Hong, remember to take stock of those immortal herbs in the afternoon. Yes, Elder. The two of them looked at each other again. Then holding hands they turned and walked out of the hall. Immediately, the entire hall was filled with a pink aura. Even Shening, who was sitting at the top and nibbling on a fruit, felt the smell of dog food. So she narrowed her eyes and turned to look at Boss Lan, who was criticizing her taste in clothes and forcing her to wear Dharma clothes. She suddenly said, Boss Lan, what? Is grievous energy more powerful than your demonic chi? You must be joking. His expression was as if she was looking down on him. Which one of the most powerful yin chi in the world can compare to demonic chi? All kinds of yin chi and grievous energy are like toys in the eyes of demons. Once the demonic chi is released, it can be dispelled in minutes. Oh! Shining gave a long response and continued to nibble on her fruit as if nothing had happened. But the two of them, who had just walked to the door, stopped in their tracks. The pink bubbles surrounding him burst into pieces in an instant. Some kind of cold aura was emitting from Yu Hong's body and rushing towards Little Black. Madam. Little Black's little heart trembled, and his legs turned to jelly. Madam, listen to my explanation. Little Black. A roar sounded, and the entire hall shook. Yu Hong's originally delicate figure suddenly turned into a metal Barbie. How dare you lie to me? With that said, she picked up a certain demon king who was trembling beside her and threw him out. Madam. Before he could finish speaking, he turned into a small black dot in the sky. Yu Hong's figure also flashed and disappeared at the door. It was obvious that she was chasing after him to beat him up. The hall fell silent. 3 pairs of eyes turned to look at a certain foodie above them. What's the matter? Shening looked innocent, pure and kind, as if she knew nothing. Is it time to eat? I Ching. Lone Moon. Lan Hua. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Do you know what it means to not expose the truth when life is hard? Ha! Shening tilted her head. Forget it, eat your food. Although Little Black was very pitiful, why did he feel so good for some reason? Oh! She then continued to nibble on her fruit. She felt that it was even more fragrant, the kind that didn't taste like dog food. Chapter 399. Little Black did not appear in the sect for a whole month after this beating. Yu Hong seemed to be really angry. Every time Little Black tried to crawl back, she would find out and throw it out mercilessly. Even the other demons that came and went were not friendly. The only thing missing was a sign at the heavenly gate saying that demons and dogs were not allowed in. Lone Moon finally felt a little more relaxed. He had thought that he would have to give the newlyweds a wedding leave or something. Now it seemed like he could save the trouble. But although the matter in the sect was resolved, something else came up. What's this? Shening poked the colorful bird on the table. Hong Ming sent it. He said that it's the first phoenix that appeared in their plane. Lone Moon explained casually. Phoenix. Shening turned to look at Chef beside her. It just looks similar. I Ching glanced at the bird on the table. This is a beast without sentience. At most, it was a bigger bird. Oh! Shen Ying's eyes narrowed. What's it for? I heard that it has some special abilities. Hong Meng specially sent it to you to thank you for what happened last time. For me. Extra food? Lone Moon nodded. Ever since he sent Hong Meng and the others back to their plane, they would send some things over from time to time. But that plane had just been opened, and there was really nothing special. This was the first time he saw a living creature. But he did not elaborate. What is this bird used for? Just as he was thinking, the bird on the table flapped its wings and suddenly flew up. It let out a crisp bird cry. It flew in a circle above the rear hall, and its body began to emit a white light. In the next moment, its long tail flapped, and with a flash of white light, something came crashing down from the sky, falling straight onto the table. A crack appeared on the surface of the table. The few of them looked down and saw that there was a fist-sized crystal-clear object on the table. There was light flowing inside, and immortal chi overflowed. This was immortal stone. Lone Moon was shocked. He picked up the stone and saw that it was a supreme-grade immortal stone. This bird can actually drop immortal stones. Even I Ching looked at the bird in shock. This was practically a moving immortal stone vault. With it in the sect, there was no need to worry about a lack of immortal stones. Of course, there was no shortage now. Hong Meng sure is generous. Satisfied, Lone Moon patted the bird that was lying back on the table. He smiled like the president of a bank. You even sent such a precious bird here. And what a sensible god. Wow. Shining tugged at the bird's feathers curiously. So, can it be eaten? Lone Moon. I Ching. Can you think of anything other than eating? Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her and picked up the bird. This is a bird that can produce immortal stones. Can it be eaten? Can't I eat those that produce immortal stones? The meat was clearly quite fragrant. You're wasting it. Of course, he had to keep the immortal stone first. It would be such a waste to eat it just like that. Besides, you've eaten 6 meals today. 6. Was there really that many? Shenning stared blankly at the bird in his hand. But it looked really delicious. Is the immortal stone that important? Nonsense. What are you going to eat and drink if you don't have immortal stones? Lone Moon dispelled her desire to eat seriously. This is a supreme-grade immortal stone. The immortal chi inside is the purest. The disciples in the sect can directly absorb the immortal chi inside when they cultivate. It's very beneficial to their cultivation. If not, they can exchange it for something else. Is that so? Shen Ying's eyes narrowed. Something flashed across her eyes. She said slowly, but this stone, wasn't it that bird pooped out from that thing? Isn't it a little unhygienic to absorb what it pooped out? Also, you used the thing it pooped out to exchange for food and drink. Then, shut up. Lone Moon's face turned green. If she continued, he was going to vomit. Why did a good thing become completely different when it came out of her mouth? He suddenly felt that the immortal stone in his hand was burning. Here. He shoved the bird over. Add more food, all right? Was there a need to go so far just for food? Chef. Shining was delighted. She turned and shoved the bird to I Ching. Spicy chicken. The insanely spicy kind. Yes, master. No problem, master. Lone Moon. F** King retard. A while later. Father Neo, where are you going? Wash my hands. He suddenly felt that his hands smelled like bird poop. Oh. Shenning then sat up straight. It was rare that she took the initiative to set up the plates. She held a pair of chopsticks in one hand and looked like a hungry ghost waiting for dinner. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He could not be bothered with this foodie. He threw away the spirit stone in his hand and turned to the kitchen to wash his hands. At this time, there was already a dead bird lying on the chopping board. All he felt was a lump in his chest. His heart hurt. My money printing machine. He silently looked away. He quickly washed his hands and walked out. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve. When he went out, Shenning still maintained the same posture. Only her eyes were narrowed. She did not look as energetic as before. Foodie shun. Lone Moon waved his hand. Seeing that she did not respond, he could not help but push her. It's not dark yet. Why are you sleepy? Not eating the bird anymore? Shenning turned to look at him. Her eyes were misty. It was as if she only heard what he said after a while. I'm not eating anymore. Holy shit, Why didn't you say so earlier? Her feathers were plucked out. You freaking did it on purpose. Are you alright? Lone Moon then realized that something was wrong with her. What's wrong? Why are you like this? What's wrong? Father Neo, I want to discuss something with you. What is it? Her eyes became even more misty. She looked like she was going to fall asleep the next moment. I might need to hibernate for a while. What hibernate? There is no winter in the heavenly palace. What exactly happened to you? Lone Moon panicked. Suddenly he thought of something. His heart tightened. Is it because of the plane splitting last time? Are you? I'm a little sleepy. I just want to sleep. Shening tilted her head. She did not answer him directly. Just that. I'll sleep a little longer. His heart sank. How long? Quite a long time. Lone Moon clenched his fists by his side. He took a deep breath and suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. He looked straight into her eyes and said word by word, I'll just ask one thing. Tell me honestly. You will be fine. Shening was stunned for a moment. A moment later, she nodded heavily. Of course. That's good. She suddenly tapped on her wristband. A light screen appeared. She operated something lazily. During this period of time, I will seal all the plane passages. Do not open them. Also, she stopped mid-sentence. Her tone changed. Leave that bird for me. I'll eat it when I wake up. Who cares about the bird now? Lone Moon was getting more anxious. Tell me first. What can we do to help? He tried hard to calm himself down. He turned toward the kitchen and shouted, Chef. Chef. I Ching just walked out of the kitchen. It'll be ready soon. Master. Shening seemed to finally be unable to hold on. Her body swayed and she fell to the side. With a clang, the dishes in her hands spilled all over the floor. The blood drained from her face instantly. She was as white as snow. Master. Chapter 400. Master. Master. I Ching called out a few times and realized that the person in his arms was not responding at all. His face turned even paler, and even his hands began to tremble slightly. He subconsciously conjured a seal and transferred his god power. Blue light appeared around him, and large amounts of god power flowed continuously towards Shening. Chef, what you're doing is useless. She's not a cultivator, even if you give her. Holy shit. Do you want to die? Seeing that he was even about to use his inner core, Lone Moon was shocked and immediately pulled him back. Get out of my way. I Ching waved his hand away, his eyes red and filled with madness. Chef, calm down. Lone Moon said in a low voice. Shening just said that she's only in a deep sleep temporarily, she'll wake up. I Ching faltered, the crazy aura around him stopped. He turned around and asked hoarsely, How long? Lone Moon lowered his head and clenched his fists. She didn't say, but since she said she's fine, then she must be fine. His expression darkened and he finally calmed down. The red in his eyes also slowly faded, but he hugged the person in his arms even tighter, as if she would disappear if he was not careful. She's not doing well these days. You should have noticed it long ago, Lone Moon continued. She didn't say it. Perhaps because it's useless to say it. We can't help at all. It would only make us more worried. She's a manager. Some things we might not understand at all. You have to believe in your master. She. Manager. He suddenly interrupted Lone Moon, as if thinking of something. His eyes widened as if grasping at the last shred of hope, and he suddenly hugged the person up. Yes, we can find a manager. What are you doing? Lone Moon was stunned. What did he mean? Let's go to the other world, he said anxiously. Jing, she's a manager too. She must have a way. That's right, Lone Moon reacted too. He almost forgot about that big boss. He immediately conjured a seal to open a passage to the Divine Realm space. Go from the Divine Realm, it's faster there. The two quickly returned under the starry sky. Lone Moon was just about to open the plane passage when the next moment, his face paled. Why is there no reaction? He tried a few more times, but it still didn't work. He couldn't even touch the plane border. The planar channel can't be opened. I Ching's expression darkened. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a sword Dao and said, Then let's charge forward. It wasn't the first time anyway. Don't mess around. Lone Moon panicked and immediately pulled her back. She almost lost her life the last time, and she still wanted to do it again. Oh yes, Shening just said that she sealed all the plane passages. She must have her reasons for doing this. If you forcefully open it, you might end up harming her instead. I Ching retracted his sword and clenched his fists tightly. Then what should we do? Lone Moon fell silent. He clenched the flute in his hand tightly. After thinking for a while, he said, "Since we can't go over, maybe the other side can come over. Shen Jing is also a manager, she should have a way." He suddenly thought of something and tapped on the wristband. A light screen popped up in front of him. As he operated it, he said, "I remember that the manual of this wristband says that I can directly contact the other plane." He carefully scanned the light screen and finally found a red quiet icon in the lower right corner. Found it. His expression lit up, and he immediately tapped on that icon. In the next moment, a call interface popped up, accompanied by a calling sound. The other side picked up very quickly. Almost at the instant the ringtone rang, the call was connected. A familiar figure immediately appeared on the screen. "Little Ing, why are you free?" Shen Jing's voice paused. The smile on her face turned cold. "Why is it you little bastard?" She frowned. "Why did you suddenly contact me? Where's my little Ing?" "Elder sister Jing Shening." Lone Moon then stepped aside, revealing I Ching, who was carrying someone behind him. Shen Jing's expression darkened. It was as if a cold wind had swept past. Her gaze was like a knife piercing the two. What happened? Why did she suddenly enter a dormant period? "We're not sure either." Lone Moon shook his head. "She didn't tell us the reason. She just suddenly said that she wanted to hibernate for a period of time. I knew something would definitely happen. I told her long ago not to receive any planes, but she just wouldn't listen. She's been so stubborn since she was young." Shen Jing stood up and paced back and forth anxiously. After a while, she seemed to have thought of something. Her gaze became even colder as she looked at the two. "That's not right. She has 2 portions of plane power on her. Unless she encountered a huge consumption, she would not enter a dormant period. What did she do before?" Lone Moon was stunned. Then he answered, "She repaired hundreds of plane cracks before, and opened up a new plane." "What?" The person on the screen stiffened. Her body trembled. The surrounding aura suddenly became terrifying. It was as if something was about to burst out. The hands by her side were clenched tightly. Even through the light screen, she could feel a huge pressure covering the sky and earth. Even the entire space of the divine realm was shaking. They heard a few faint cracking sounds. The originally pitch-black starry sky began to crack from all sides of the light screen. It was as if the divine realm was about to be torn apart. The cracks extended in all directions. "Open. Plane." In the next moment, monstrous anger exploded from her body. It was as if a raging fire was burning around her. "I'll kill you 2 bastards." "Boss." Kai Tian suddenly appeared in the screen. He grabbed the raging manager. Calm down, calm down. You release your power so casually. It will create many plane cracks. You must calm down. Get lost." She kicked the person beside her. The sky was full of murderous intent. The person who had always been calm suddenly exploded. "Little Ing has already bound a plane. How dare you let her open up a new plane? Are you idiots? Why didn't you stop her? I'm going to kill them. I must kill them." If they hadn't abducted her little Ing, would things have turned out like this? "Boss." Kai Tian immediately crawled back and hugged her leg tightly. "The passage there has been sealed. You can't go through. You 2 bastards. Hurry up and open the passage for me. Don't think that everything will be fine. If something happens to little Ing, there will be no need for your plane to exist. Boss, if we force a breakthrough, it will affect Shening too." Shen Jing paused. Then she calmed down. Even the few cracks in the divine realm stopped extending. After a while, she took a deep breath. She looked at Lone Moon and I Ching with even colder eyes. It was as if she was looking at 2 dead people. Lone Moon felt a wave of coldness hit him. She really wanted to kill them. Yet I Ching looked down at the person in his arms. He put her down carefully. He turned and knelt down in Shen Jing's direction. "Senior Shen, it is true that we did not protect Master well. I Ching is at Senior's disposal. But Master's condition is unknown now. I hope that Senior can tell me how to wake Master up on account of our sisterhood. Chapter 401. Don't think that I'll let you off just because you jumped out voluntarily. I'll deal with you sooner or later. Shenjing glared at him. Compared to Lone Moon, she hated this scumbag who took her little sister away even more. She desperately resisted the urge to force open the plane. She glanced at the person beside him and said in a low voice, Little Ying's current situation is because she used up too much energy. That's why she entered a dormant period. She can only wait for her body to recover automatically. Then when will she recover completely? Lone Moon asked anxiously. I don't know. Shenjing frowned. Since she's already a manager, then everything in your plane will be reflected back to her. That meant that the plane was her, and she was that plane. Fortunately, that plane was stable now. It proved that she would be fine for the time being. She just needed time to recover. There will be huge differences in every plane. I'm not there, so I can't monitor the data of your plane. That's why I can't calculate the specific time. You mean, Shening might always be like this? Maybe. I Ching clenched his fists even tighter. His body trembled. After a while, he looked up and said, What kind of energy is she using up? That's not for sure. Shenjing said. Every plane has different forms of energy. When she came back before, she was hungry all the time. That's also a sign of energy loss. She could only replenish her energy with food before. But this time, it's obviously more serious. She can't recover in time. That's why she's dormant. Then what about God power? I Ching continued. God power, immortal spirit chi. Can these be used too? And the assistant seal. Chef. Lone Moon was shocked. Was he crazy? Shening said that the assistant seal couldn't be removed. Nobody knew what would happen if they lost it. It can be used. Shenjing's eyes narrowed. She glanced at the two of them and said sarcastically. But do you think the assistant seal is something that can be returned so easily? If it can be taken back so easily, would I keep something as useless as Kai Tian? Useless Kai Tian. Unjustly implicated. What's more, the two of you became assistants because of Little Ing. Even if you return this power, it'll be a drop in the bucket. It won't have any effect. Shenjing glanced at them from the corner of her eye. To put it bluntly, all of you are my sister's gigolos. Stop messing around. She thought about it, her expression becoming more and more anxious. She paced back and forth a few times before saying, I'll think of a way to lift the seal on your plane, and come over as soon as possible. You two better look after Little Ing for me, otherwise. She snorted coldly, raised her hand and pressed something. The light screen in front of her flashed, and the call was cut off. I Ching's expression darkened. He turned and walked back to Shenying's side. Carefully he helped the person on the ground up. He felt the assistant seal in his body, and activated his god power again. Chef. Lone Moon jumped and immediately grabbed his hand. Didn't you hear what Shenjing said just now? Even if you remove the assistant seal, you can't wake her up. But I still have to try. I Ching turned back, his gaze determined. I am here because of Master. If not for her, perhaps we would have disappeared along with this plane. I can't just watch her sleep like this and do nothing. Father Nyo, I'm not as thorough as you. I only know that as long as there's a sliver of a chance, I can't give up. Whether it works or not, even if it's just to make Master wake up a second earlier, it's worth it. Lone Moon faltered. But I Ching had already flung his hand away and was conjuring seals again. Shit. Lone Moon cursed under his breath. He gritted his teeth and pressed his hand down again. Wait a minute. You dash. If you want to try, let's try together. Lone Moon interrupted him directly. He sat down cross-legged at the side, and glared at the person who was unconscious. Holy shit. I must have owed you in my previous life to have met you two cheaters. He had never done such a loss-making business. So be it. With me, no matter what, we can at least get one more second. Let me say this first. Lone Moon thought about it and instructed again. You can try, but don't be stubborn. When I say stop, stop. Otherwise, not only will you get hurt, you might even harm Shening. I Ching nodded. Let's begin. The The two of them conjured seals at the same time and sensed the assistant seal in their bodies. In the next moment, a huge force instantly filled their bodies. Lone Moon took a deep breath and carefully guided that special force, then transferred it towards the person in front of him. He faintly felt something being drawn out of his body. Just as it was about to enter Shen Ying's body, his divine perception suddenly felt a sharp pain. That force could not be transferred at all, and was instead directly repelled. Lone Moon felt a sweetness in his heart. Immediately, the corner of his mouth was filled with the taste of blood. He subconsciously glanced at the person beside him, only to find that the person's face was even paler than his. It seemed like Shen Jing was right. He really could not take it back. He was just about to retract his hand when he suddenly found that he could not. The assistant's force was repelled, but the immortal qi in his body began to flow rapidly, madly towards Shen Ying. What was going on? Chef, hurry and stop. Lone Moon reminded him, but it was already too late. The immortal qi in his body flowed even faster. In just a moment he felt his dantian empty. His vision darkened, and he directly fainted. Niao! I Ching panicked. In the next moment his vision also darkened and he fell. Both of them fell into darkness. The moment he closed his eyes, he seemed to see something. He did not know how much time had passed. When he woke up again, he vaguely felt that there was something very glaring, so bright that they could not open their eyes. Lone Moon subconsciously wanted to cover his eyes, but found that he could not move at all. There was a sharp pain all over his body. He directly opened his eyes, but a strong light shot straight at him, making him a little dizzy. You're awake. An exceptionally cold but somewhat familiar voice sounded, followed by a few clicking sounds, like the sound of something being pressed. Lone Moon looked up, only to find that not far in front of him, there was a blurry reflection. The figure was not tall, and did not look old. Her legs were crossed on an armchair, and her eyes were cold as she looked in his direction. He closed his eyes and suppressed the surging feeling of dizziness. Only then did he see that person's face clearly. It was cold but exceptionally familiar, and seemed to be a few inches smaller than he remembered. This was Shen Jing. Before he could react, Chef beside him had already blurted out in surprise. Master! You're awake, that's great. What? This was Shen Ying. Chef subconsciously wanted to go over, but his body moved. In the next moment, the two of them felt a sharp pain all over their bodies, and there was a faint burning smell. Lone Moon was stunned and looked down. Holy shit! Who tied them up? And it was the kind where the two of them were tied together and hung upside down. The person on the chair frowned, and looked at the two of them even more coldly. Who are you? What is this place? What is your purpose? As soon as he finished speaking, there was a whoosh. 4 to 5 round balls flashing with red light appeared in the air around them. The black muzzles on the balls were all aimed at the two of them. The voice was as cold as ice. Speak. I Ching. Lone Moon. Huh? What was going on? Chapter 402. Shen Ying, why did you tie us up? Lone Moon subconsciously tried to break free from the light around him. The next moment, the white light flashed, and he felt another sharp pain. The light wrapped around him even tighter. More importantly, he couldn't activate any immortal qi at all. It was as if he was sealed. You've done your homework. The person's expression turned even colder. With some mockery she said, You even know my name. Tell me, how long have you invaded the plane? I Ching became more and more anxious. He subconsciously wanted to go over. Master, what exactly happened to you? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Lone Moon exclaimed. The light wrapped around him even tighter. Chef, don't move. Master. Shen Ying's eyes narrowed. Isn't it a little too late to claim kinship now? No way, Shen Ying. Lone Moon's face was full of disbelief. Don't tell me you really lost your memory? Wait a minute. He carefully sized up the person sitting on the chair. His eyes widened. Why do I feel like you're shorter? He looked again. It wasn't an illusion. The person opposite him really was shorter. Even the robe she was wearing was longer. Shen Ying, you dash. It seems like you don't intend to tell the truth without suffering a little. Before he could finish, Shen Ying seemed to have lost her patience. She raised her hand and pointed at something. In the next moment, The spheres surrounding the two suddenly opened like petals. A red beam of light shot out from both sides, connecting from head to tail, forming a ring. It slowly descended downwards and stopped at the position of their heads. It's all right. It's the same if I scan your brains directly. In the next moment, the ring became smaller and smaller. The red light was about to cut their heads. Lone Moon was shocked. He sweated. Holy shit, no way. Shening, you're serious. If you have the guts to invade the plane, you have to be prepared to pay the price. Invade? Lone Moon then realized that she had misunderstood something. He hurriedly shouted, Wait! We're not invaders. You're not even in Shinjing's plane now. This is your divine realm. Shening faltered. Even the red ring stopped. She sat up from the chair. What did you say? Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did he confirm that she had really lost her memory, and it was not completely forgotten. She had only forgotten about them. You're no longer in your original plane. This is the immortal spirit plane. The starry sky behind you is the 3,000 planes. As fast as he could, Lone Moon briefly explained everything that had happened since they transmigrated, including how she went into hibernation. The more Shening listened, the deeper her frown became. She exuded an unapproachable aura. She scanned the two of them a few times. After a while, she said in a low voice, You mean to say that I'm the manager of this plane now? That's right. Lone Moon nodded hurriedly. If you don't believe me, you can contact Shinjing directly. You'll believe her words, right? Shenying's expression stiffened. Something flashed across her eyes, but she did not confirm the call. Instead, she walked over, reached out her hand, and placed it on both of their foreheads. She closed her eyes and sensed for a while. After a while, he retracted his hand and looked at the two of them with some surprise. Then he pointed at the light screen beside him. In the next moment, Lone Moon felt his body relax. The light that bound them suddenly disappeared. The two of them fell back to the ground with a thud, and that red halo also turned back into a small round ball. It shrunk to the size of a marble and flew back to Shenying's palm. Master! I Ching stood up immediately. He subconsciously wanted to hold her hand to check. Shening frowned and took a step back. She looked at him with cold eyes. His outstretched hand stiffened. A hint of pain flashed across his eyes. Are you all right? Shening frowned. She seemed to be not used to it. She did not answer his question. Instead, she turned and said seriously, Both of you do have assistant seals on you, so I'll believe what you said for now. And this place can indeed change according to my wishes. This is your divine realm. Of course you can do whatever you want. Lone Moon rubbed his waist that was hurting from being bound. He got up. Speaking of which, how many things have you forgotten? Why did he feel that not only her height, but even her personality had completely changed? She did not look the least bit lazy like before. In the past she did not talk as much as she did now, because she was too lazy to talk. Shenying's expression darkened. She waved her hand. In the next moment, the originally pitch-black starry sky turned into a different world. In the blink of an eye, the three of them found themselves in a house that was tens of square meters large. There was a coffee table in front of them. There was also a familiar-looking sofa beside it. It was exactly like the one in Shenying's house. She turned and sat down on the sofa. Then she asked, How old was the me that you knew? Lone Moon and I Ching exchanged a look. Then he answered, This is a little difficult. The time after the transmigration is a little hard to calculate. But I remember the first time I met you. You said you were 28 years old. The corner of her mouth twitched. She seemed to be a little disgusted. After a while, she turned to look at the two of them. I remember this year. 15 years old. 15. Lone Moon scanned her from head to toe. No wonder she was shorter. It seemed that not only her memory, but her body had also returned to 15 years old. Is it because we used the assistant seal without permission and did not succeed? I Ching clenched his fists. A trace of pain flashed across his heart. So master, you will. Are you an idiot? Shening suddenly interrupted rudely. For the first time, she rolled her eyes at Chef. If you didn't do that, I might never wake up again. The two of them were stunned. What did she mean? You don't understand? Seeing that they were confused, Shening then explained. Didn't you say that my sister told you that I went into hibernation because I expended too much energy and lacked energy? You guessed right. The assistant seal is indeed the most suitable energy for me to recover. Then why? Their assistant seals were still on their bodies. I should have set a protection mechanism on your seals in advance. Shenning glanced at the two of them. That's why you couldn't return it to me. Instead, you transferred another kind of energy in your body to me. Immortal Qi? Divine power? The two of them said in unison. I don't know what it's called either. She clenched her fists. But it's obvious that those two energies were not enough to replenish my energy. So although I woke up, I returned to 15 years old. I didn't become the manager I was before. Then, Master, will you always be like this? I Ching could not help but ask. Her eyes dimmed. She shook her head. I don't know. Why don't we ask Shenjing? Lone Moon suggested. She's a manager too. Even if she can't solve it, she should be able to help you. And now that you're awake, you just have to remove the plain seal. I Ching nodded. That's right. Shenjing is the only one who can help Master now. Shenning did not move. Instead, she looked at the two of them with a strange expression. Her eyes widened. She looked at the two of them, as if they were retarded. A moment later, the corner of her mouth twitched. She spat out a few cold words. Do you want to die? Huh? Why don't you shake your heads and listen for the sound of the waves? I Ching. Lone Moon. He suddenly felt that the 15-year-old Shenning was so poisonous. _angle_. Chapter 403. Why do you think I closed the plain passage? Shenning glanced at the two of them. Lone Moon subconsciously replied. To prevent intruders? Shenying's mouth twitched. Did you learn Chinese from a math teacher? Her eyes were full of contempt for his IQ. Lone Moon was speechless. He suddenly missed the lazy girl in the past. Only an invasion, without going through the normal channels, is called an invasion. The plain passage is the normal passageway for people to come and go. Would there be such an open and above-board intruder? Then sealing the passage, could it be to prevent the manager from coming over? Lone Moon was stunned. A moment later, he suddenly thought of something. Shenjing. She deliberately prevented Shenjing from coming over? Of course. Shenning frowned and gave him a look that said, You're not hopelessly stupid. I don't know about the other managers, but if I enter the dormant period, my sister. Her expression changed, as if she had thought of something. She'll definitely find you guys first. Lone Moon instantly thought of Shenjing's murderous aura just now. His heart turned cold. If not for the plain seal, that Siscon would really kill her directly. One must know that from the start, she was the one who most opposed Shenning taking over this plane. Previously, it was because Shenning insisted, and she could not stop Shenning. Now that Shenying's power had not recovered, it meant that no one could stop her. Can't you see such simple logic? Did you become assistants by being funny? You actually want to open the seal. How confident are you that you can stop a manager, or? She narrowed her eyes, her gaze piercing straight at the two of them like knives. Do you think you're tired of living so you're rushing to die? I Ching. Lone Moon. His heart hurts. Although you make sense, can you not stab me with knives? Shenning returned to 15 years old, be it in terms of power, memory or body. It was as if she had been restored with one click. She turned back into an ordinary 15-year-old girl. Although apart from being shorter, she still looked the same, but she was no longer the cheat from before. Lone Moon and I Ching both checked, and found that the current her was just a little stronger than ordinary mortals. Her abilities were even inferior to the cultivators of the lower realm. Her entire person was like a cheat that was suddenly sealed. In other words, she was now immortal. Then how does Master recover? I Ching clenched his fists by his side and looked straight at Shenning, asking anxiously, What should we do? Shenning turned her head awkwardly under his direct gaze, and subconsciously leaned back. I just checked the data of this plane. There is no possibility for me to recover immediately. Then what should we do? Lone Moon's face paled. She wouldn't always look like this, would she? Wait. Shenning replied with a single word. She casually opened a light screen, and saw a row of data flash by. As she operated, she replied, Hibernation is meant to recover. After a long time it will naturally recover. However, based on the current speed, it will probably take a few hundred to 1,000 years. What? Both of them were shocked at the same time. Hundreds, thousands of years. What about divine power and immortal chi? I Ching continued to ask. Master woke up because of this. If he had enough immortal chi, would he be fine? All right. We can return to the heavenly palace. There are still several immortal meridians in the sect. If we use that, we might be able to. It's useless. Shening shook her head directly. I woke up more or less because of the assistant seal. It's not because of any immortal chi or divine power. That energy originally existed in this plane. How could it be useful to a manager? Both of them fell silent. They couldn't think of any other way. Forget it. Let's go back first. Lone Moon suggested. It's good that you're awake. We can slowly think of a way. I Ching once again looked at Shening worriedly. He could only nod. They could only take one step at a time. Don't worry, Shening. Lone Moon patted his chest and promised. With chefs and my abilities, even without the assistant seal, we can definitely protect you. What's more, Invincible Sect is very safe. Before you recover, it's better to go back. Shening looked up at him and stood up from the sofa. This is what you assistants should do. Can't you stop spewing venom and say something nicer? Lone Moon sighed. He habitually wanted to open up space transportation. He raised his hand to conjure a seal, but found that his dantian was empty. He froze. What's the matter? Seeing that he didn't move for a long time, Shening turned to look at him. Weren't they leaving? I forgot. The immortal chi hasn't recovered. I can't open up space transportation. She subconsciously turned to look at I Ching. Me too. I Ching replied. Shening. Lone Moon looked embarrassed. He just said that he would protect her, but he immediately dropped the ball. Why don't you wait for us to rest and recover some energy before leaving? The corner of Shen Ying's mouth twitched. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at the two of them, who were full of confidence, just a moment ago. After a while she said coldly, I suddenly don't want to return to when I was 28 years old. Why? Because I was blind. That's why I chose the two of you as my assistants. I Ching. Lone Moon. A stab to the heart. Which one of you brought something related to the destination? Shening asked as she opened up a screen. Something related? Lone Moon thought about it, and immediately opened up his storage bag. I have it. With that said, he took out a dandelion that looked like a carrot and handed it over. What do you want this for? Set the coordinates. She replied and directly placed the dandelion on a table beside the screen. In the next moment a row of data flashed. The space in front of them twisted, and a black passage opened up. Let's go. Shening ignored the two of them who were staring in shock. She turned and walked inside. The two of them. Didn't they say that they would completely lose their cheats and become ordinary people again? Once again, they suffered a crushing defeat in terms of intelligence. After crossing that transportation tunnel, in the blink of an eye, the three of them had already returned to Invincible Sect. Perhaps because they had set the coordinates for the carrot, they did not go to the back hall, but to the back mountain. The three of them looked up and saw that in the large immortal plant field, there was a huge carrot that occupied half of the field. It was squatting in the pit and shaking its leaves. Beside it, there was a dandelion that was swaying with the wind. Little Missy. The carrot saw the three of them at one glance. It jumped out of the pit and hopped towards them. Because of its huge body, every jump caused the ground to tremble. In an instant, it crushed a large number of immortal plants. Be careful of those immortal plants. Loman's heart ached. Those were all immortal stones. The carrot often maintained its human form and did not feel it. Now it looked like this fellow should go on a diet. Little Missy, you're here to water me so early? The carrot is so happy. It jumped hard and pounced. The whole carrot came crashing towards them. It looked like the huge mountain of carrot was about to crush Shen Ying's body. Holy shit. Shen Ying was not the same as before. Carrot. Lo Moon got a fright. Luckily, I Ching reacted quickly and kicked at the bottom of the carrot. The carrot lost its balance and fell to the side. With a plop, it was crushed into the immortal plant field at the side. A large number of immortal plants were instantly crushed into a pile of mud. W. Loneman. Chef. You bunch of prodigal sons. Oh, greater than overcool to co. Oh. Chapter 404. Little Big Sister, Little Big Sister. Radish was obviously used to being kicked. It rolled a few times and pulled out the leaves on its head. It plucked the dandelion in the middle and gave it to Shening. Here, here. Shen Ying's body stiffened slightly. She looked at the flowers that were suddenly handed to her. Her eyes widened. For me? Yes, yes, yes. Radish waved its leaves happily and nodded vigorously. My flowers are the prettiest. I only give them to Little Big Sister. Something flashed across Shen Ying's eyes. She clenched her fists and stared straight at the large dandelion flowers. She did not respond for a long time. All right, Radish. Lone Moon stepped forward and persuaded. Do you have to give it to her every day? Shening will not accept. Before he finished speaking, the person beside him suddenly reached out and took the flowers. She hugged them in her arms and replied in a low voice. Thank you. The two of them. Lone Moon was stunned. Radish was even more stunned. It looked at the empty leaves in disbelief, and then at the flowers in her arms. It took a long time before it realized what had happened. Accepted. Little Big Sister accepted my flowers? That's great. It jumped up excitedly. It could not care less about getting up. The whole radish rolled left and right on the ground. That's great. It rolled all the way back to the previous pit. As it rolled, it said excitedly, I knew that Little Big Sister would like my flowers one day. No, I have to bloom more for Little Big Sister. As he spoke, he pulled out a certain dandelion that was basking in the sun. Son, let's bloom. Father, are you finally going to teach me to bloom? That's great. So a certain dandelion jumped out and turned into a human form. The three of them. It was just collecting flowers. Was there a need to be so happy? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. The next moment his expression changed. Wait, where are you rolling to? My immortal herbs. Come back. Unfortunately, it had already rolled further and further away. The remaining half of the immortal herbs in the back mountain fell instantly. Radish, this prodigal. His heart ached when he heard the sound of the celestial stone shattering. As expected, handing Song Run over to Radish was a wrong decision. Master. I Ching could not help but turn to look at Shening, who was still hugging the flowers. Why did you suddenly accept the flowers? Didn't she not accept flowers in the past? Can't you accept it? Shening tightened her grip on the dandelion. This was the first time someone had given her a flower. It's not chrysanthemum, Lone Moon subconsciously interrupted. What kind of chrysanthemum are you talking about? I Ching. Shening. Lone Moon was a little worried about Shen Ying's current situation. The fact that she had become a normal person naturally could not be made public. Although her previous role in the sect was only as a mascot, even if he didn't do anything now, it wouldn't be any different from before. However, her sudden change in personality and her shorter stature were too obvious. In addition, with her cheat, even her invisibility attribute seemed to have been sealed, and her presence seemed to be exploding. So on the way back from the back mountain, he could not help but worry about how to help her. But soon he realized that his worries were a little unnecessary. Disciple 1. Sect Master. I'm so lucky to have met you today. Greetings, Sect Master. Shening stopped in her tracks and nodded slowly. All right. Disciple 2. Sect Master, did you just water Radish? You've worked hard. Disciple 3. Sect Master. Heavens, I'm actually seeing the sect leader. Am I dreaming? Quick, give me a punch. Disciple 4. Sect Master. Have you eaten? Along the way, they met dozens of disciples. They all looked excited as if they had won a big prize. But none of them noticed anything different about Shening. It was as if Shening had always been like this. Even Yu Hong did not notice anything different. The key was that Shening seemed to have suddenly switched off her venomous tongue mode. She actually walked back with a straight back and a cold face. Her expression did not change at all. She did not say more than 10 words. Even when she saw Yu Hong, she only nodded. Shening, why did you? Lo Moon was just about to ask when someone walked in. Good heart. Lan Hua suddenly rushed in. Can you return the fire-subduing fan I gave you the other time? Without that fan, it's not easy to control the deviant fire. This concerns my reputation as a 10th level heaven-grade alchemist. Can I borrow it from you? He definitely could not have a dark history like exploding his cauldron. Shining was shocked. She took a step back. After a while, she turned to look at the two people beside her. Who? This is Boss Lan. I'll explain to you later, Lo Moon explained. He took out a red fan from his storage bag. Looking at Lan Hua, he asked, Are you talking about this? Yes, this. Lan Hua's eyes lit up. He reached out to take it. Quick, give it to me. I'm halfway through refining my cauldron. Oh, Lo Moon's eyes narrowed. He turned and handed the fan to the person behind him. Shining, give it to her. Huh? Shining. I Ching. Holy shit. Lan Hua exploded. He's doing this on purpose. He's definitely doing this. Shining looked down at the fan, then at the person in front of her. Why did he hand it to her? Without thinking much, she handed it over. Lan Hua's face twisted. He looked like he was crying or laughing. He took it with trembling hands, and turned to glare at a certain profiteer. You bastard, just you wait. He opened the storage bag beside him. He gritted his teeth and started digging. Here, the pills I just refined. This is 10th level. This is 9th level. This is below 8th level. There are also some Dharma artifacts I refined before. This is the water-repellent bell, frost silk, primordial bell. He dug out more and more until there was nothing left to stuff. Only then did he stop and shake the empty storage bag a bit. Shining, who was almost buried by the Dharma artifacts and pills. That's all for now. Lan Hua looked like he had nothing left to live for. Is that okay? This damned good heart. Shining stiffened. A moment later, the corner of her mouth twitched and she said, You. Before he could finish his words, Lan Hua directly stuffed the storage bag over. Here, 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 here. With that said, he took the fan, turned around and walked out of the door. If he stayed any longer, he would even leave his underwear here. Not bad. You did well. Lo Moon patted Xin Ying's shoulder in satisfaction. Only then did she finish her sentence. There's no need. Lo Moon. I Ching. I Ching looked thoughtfully at Xin Ying, who still had a cold expression. Why did it feel like Master was? Chapter 405. It's getting late. I Ching looked up at the sky, then turned to Xin Ying and said, Master, it's time for dinner. Dinner? Xin Ying faltered, but I Ching pointed to the table at the side and said, Master, wait here for a while, I'll do it now. If you're hungry, you can eat some pastries first. Xin Ying frowned and shook her head. My body is different from ordinary people. I don't need. Before she could finish, she saw I Ching open his storage bag and take out plates of different kinds of exquisite pastries. The unique sweet smell of pastries wafted into her nose. He placed more than 10 plates on the table, then turned and hurried to the kitchen. Xin Ying's words were stuck in her mouth, and her eyes widened. So fragrant. Xin Ying stared straight at the 10 plates of pastries, clenched her fists by her side, and then slowly reached out. Just as she was about to grab a piece, a hand suddenly reached out from beside her, directly grabbing the pastry closest to her, and stuffed it into her mouth. The pastries this time are not bad. Lo Moon ate while turning back to look at Xin Ying. Oh yes, what did you say just now? Nothing. Xin Ying's expression turned cold, and she sat down expressionlessly, but her gaze could not help but fall on the tempting pastries in front of her again, and after hesitating for a while, watching Lo Moon beside her eat one by one, she could not help but pick up a piece and put it into her mouth. So delicious. Piece by piece, the pastries on the table disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The two of them seemed to be competing, not even bothering to talk. The whole yard was filled with the crunching sounds of eating pastries. When Chef finished cooking and came out, there were already more than 10 empty plates on the table, and the air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. I Ching was obviously used to it, and put away the plates, and replaced them with more fragrant dishes. So the two hamsters joined in a new round of fighting for food, until 2 hours later, the two of them rubbed their full stomachs and stopped. Master. I Ching habitually poured a cup of spirit tea and handed it over. You'll feel better if you drink some water. Shenning paused. She looked up at I Ching, and then at the cup of tea in front of her. She clenched her fists by her side, and took it with both hands. She lowered her head and took a sip. She replied in a low voice, Your cooking is edible. Thank you. I Ching, who had unexpectedly received the gratitude card, was stunned. He looked at her in surprise. Master was, Che. Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her. Out of habit he ridiculed her. Only edible? But you were fighting so fiercely with me just now. You won't even let go of the last piece of meat. Stop pretending. The entire Three Realms knows that you are a foodie, okay? He rubbed his stomach and stood up. Alright, if you're full, let's go to the main hall. If you don't remember what happened before, I'll have my disciples come over, so that you can recognize your face. Otherwise, it'll be hard to explain if you recognize the wrong person. Shenning stiffened. I'm not going. Why? Something flashed across Shen Ying's eyes. Is your logic broken? She turned and glared at him. Then she resumed her cold demeanor. What's the difference between calling them over for me to recognize, and admitting that I lost my memory? The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. That made sense. Then call Yu Hong, Qingyu, Shorty and the others over. It's okay if you don't recognize the others, but they often come to the rear hall. You have to meet them. Shenning sat up straighter. I'm not going to meet them. Don't worry. Lone Moon continued to explain. Even if they know the truth, they are trustworthy. Nothing will happen to them. I'm not going. Shenning still objected. Why is that? She did not answer. Her face remained cold, and she had no intention of changing her mind. She just clenched her fists tightly by her side. She seemed a little nervous. I Ching was stunned. He subconsciously turned to look at the pile of Dharma artifacts that Lan Hua had left behind. There was also the dandelion on the chair beside him. Something clicked in his mind. He asked tentatively, Is Master not good at interacting with people, so you don't want to meet strangers? Lone Moon was also stunned. His eyes widened as he looked at Shen Ying in front of him. No way, you have social phobia? What a joke. Shen Ying's whole body stiffened. In an instant, she was as cold as ice. It was as if all the warmth in her body had faded away. Large amounts of cold air floated out of her body. Her whole body seemed to be frozen. A few words flashed through her mind. I've been discovered. Is identical to, what to do? What to do? Why not just kill her? #hey, what's with that look in your eyes? It's as if you want to kill me to keep my mouth shut. Lone Moon's hair stood on end. He had guessed right, hadn't he? It had to be. This sharp-tongued 15-year-old Shen Ying actually had social phobia. Shen Ying, Master. Before he could finish, I Ching suddenly interrupted. He took a step forward and said, It's getting late. You've just woken up. Your body hasn't recovered yet. Why don't you rest early? With that said, he pointed to the bedroom at the side. If there's anything, we can talk about it later. Shen Ying then looked up at him. The cold air around her body eased. She replied, She turned and walked into the room. But her footsteps were stiff. For some reason, she seemed to be fleeing. In the next moment, she slammed the door with a bang. The two of them. She can't really. Lone Moon felt that it was a little unbelievable. I saw that she was very fluent in dissing us in the divine realm. She didn't look like she had social phobia at all. Maybe not. I Ching said in a low voice. Don't you think that Master looks very much like someone now? Lone Moon was stunned. Shinjing. I Ching nodded. He looked at the tightly shut door. His eyes darkened. In the past, Master probably didn't interact much with people. Now, I just don't know how to respond to other people's kindness. That was why she took Radish's flower and imitated Shinjing's cold demeanor. Shen Ying was in the house. What to do? Someone else found out. Even his sister couldn't tell. So how did they know? Were those two demons? Sure enough, communicating with others was much scarier than dealing with planar storms. Returning to the first day when she was 15, Ying. a girl with mild social anxiety, panicked. Ever since she decided to become Big Sister's assistant at the age of 3, Shening had not interacted with strangers for a long time. She was very busy. Just the plain information that Xin Jing had arranged for her had already taken up all of her spare time. Especially after she started physical training at the age of 5, she rarely went back to Earth. Every day he would study, work, and beat bugs. There were only 2 semesters every year. And when he went back to school, he basically did not come into contact with any strangers. Moreover, due to the time limit of the teleportation space, she had to rush back after every exam. She didn't have any good classmates, and the only person she interacted with was her strict older sister. Chapter 406. Big Sister said that nothing could go wrong with the plane, or it would cause irreparable effects. So she had to be straightforward and not sloppy. Knowledge had to be at her fingertips, and she could understand everything. Shening worked hard for more than 10 years and finally did it. She completed all of Big Sister's training and could deal with any plane crisis calmly. After a long period of training alone, she learned everything, but she forgot how to get along with others. Big Sister said that she had to be as cold and heartless as the winter. But what if the other party was not an intruder? Well, what to do? No, don't panic. She was a plane assistant. Although she didn't know how to do it, she could learn. And the only reference beside her. As long as she was like Big Sister, it should be fine. Yes, absolutely fine. So, when Shening came back to her senses, she realized that her soft and cute sister seemed to have suddenly become cold. The kind that could not be turned back. Master. Suddenly there were a few knocks on the door, startling a certain person who was drawing circles in the corner. Shening stiffened and returned to the chair in the room like lightning. Her expression instantly turned on the fridge mode, cold as snow, as if the panic, grievance, and helplessness just now were just an illusion. Come in. I Ching then pushed the door open and entered, glancing at a certain person sitting at the table with her back straight, his eyes like water. Master, this is Xianbud brew, it helps you sleep. In the past you would drink a cup before sleeping. I was afraid that you would not be able to sleep, so I sent it over. Shening glanced at the cup in his hand, and instantly thought of the table full of dishes. Her heart moved. Specially sent over? What a good disciple, but what should she say? Should she say thank you? But she had already said it before, so. You still have something else? She asked coldly. Yes, there is one more thing. I Ching did not care about her especially cold expression. He stepped forward and was about to speak, but saw Xin Ying's black claw on the table. Why is Master's hand dirty? Shening stiffened, and for a moment, cold air began to emit out. She must not let him find out that she had just dirted it by drawing circles. I Ching turned around and sat down. He took her hand and took out a handkerchief from somewhere and wiped it. Master, did you forget that I put a dust removal talisman in your storage bag? If you think it's inconvenient, why don't I refine a dust removing pearl and bring it along? Shening did not answer. She was completely stunned. She stared blankly at the person who was wiping her hand. She suddenly felt as if her palm was on fire, burning up. Are all disciples like this? It's done. I Ching wiped his little black claws back to his little white claws. He then let go of her hand and looked up. Shening panicked when she accidentally met his gaze. She clenched her burning palms. What should she say? If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Oh, oh, something's not right? I Ching, who had been chased away for the umpteenth time, felt suffocated. He glanced at the person in front of him and sighed before saying, There's one more thing that I wanted to mention to Master previously. Speak. Master, can you? He suddenly leaned forward and scanned her from head to toe. With a serious expression he said, Take off your clothes. Huh? Take off my clothes? Now. A bunch of mosaics flashed across her mind. She vaguely felt a rumbling sound, as if something had exploded. Her face burned with a strange heat that she had never felt before. What disciple? So scary. W. Master's figure has changed now. This Dharma robe is a little too long. I Ching tugged at her long sleeves and continued to explain. I want to add an array on the Dharma robe, so that it can shrink and shrink according to master's figure. Huh? Just changing the clothes? Shenning was stunned. Master, do you think there's anything wrong with that? I Ching asked in return. No. Shenning immediately shook her head. She heaved a huge sigh of relief in her heart, but her expression did not change. She stood up immediately. As she tugged at her belt, she said, I'll take it off for you now. Take it, take it. Master. I Ching was shocked. It was only then that he realized what she wanted to do. His face turned red, and he hurriedly pressed down on her hand. Not now. Tomorrow. You can give it to me tomorrow morning. Oh. Only then did Shenning stop. I Ching turned his head, and took out a new set of Dharma robe, and handed it over. His face was so red that it was dripping blood. This is a replacement. Master can change into it, tomorrow. He did not even dare to look at her. When he looked down, he saw the belt around her waist that was about to be loosened. He subconsciously reached for it, and was just about to put it back on for her. But the door was pushed open with a bang. Lone Moon suddenly rushed in. I Ching was shocked. He was already nervous. His hands trembled. The hand that was originally going to put on the belt pulled down instead. In an instant, the whole belt was pulled down. Without the restraint of the belt, the supreme-grade Dharma robe immediately showed its supreme-grade softness. It directly slid down Shenying's body. Shenying, the dandelion that Radish gave you'd better? Lone Moon suddenly paused. He looked at Shenying, then looked at Chef who was still holding the belt. Instantly he understood something. He covered his eyes. I didn't see anything. You guys continue. Shenying. I Ching. Lone Moon left very decisively. Aya, his daughter has grown up. Wait a minute. The current Shenying seemed to be only 15 years old. The hand that was just about to close the door paused. He pushed it open again. Chef, you beast. She's only 15. Before he finished speaking, Chef suddenly seemed to come back to his senses. He directly stuffed the clothes in his other hand to Shenying, and spoke at a speed that he had never spoken before. Master, it's already late. The night wind is strong. You should rest early. Master, there are new blankets in the cabinet. Your body has not recovered, and you've always been afraid of the cold. You'd better be more careful. Master, you can't eat too many of the purple immortal fruits on the table. I'll change some pastries for you. If you're hungry at night, you can eat them first. Master, I'll come again tomorrow to get the Dharma robe. He gave a series of instructions, explaining everything in detail. When he was done, he directly turned and walked out. On the way, he also dragged Father Nyo, who was at the side and could not get a word in. His footsteps were so fast, as if there was something chasing behind him. He walked all the way out of the rear hall before stopping. Chef, why is your nose bleeding? Lone Moon turned and saw 2 tubes of bright red flowing down from under I Ching's nose. Was there a need for this? Shenying only took off her outer clothes just now, right? There were still a few pieces of clothes inside. Wait, what are you doing? Holy shit. Don't faint, I don't want to carry you. Before he finished speaking, the person in front of him swayed, and had already fallen head first. Her hand was still tightly holding onto a pink belt. Lone Moon. Son of AB *TH. Inside the house, Shenying frowned. What a strange disciple. She put down the new clothes in her hands and took off 2 more. She turned and climbed onto the bed. She buried herself in the blankets. Sleep. 15 minutes later, she lifted the corner of the blanket and looked at the drink on the table. A trace of hesitation flashed across her face. After a while she climbed up again. She held the cup with both hands and took a sip. The next moment her eyes widened. So good. Chapter 407. In the rear hall of Invincible Sect. Bo-Si Immortal Gathering? Lone Moon looked at Yu Hong with some surprise. What Bo-Si Immortal Gathering? It's the emperors of the various countries in the Bo-Si. They heard that Elder and you have returned, so they jointly wrote to the emperor, requesting to hold the Bo-Si Immortal Gathering 3 days later, according to tradition, to congratulate the emperor on his return. Yu Hong handed over the invitation in her hand and explained. Lone Moon took it and scanned the contents of the post. He frowned. Why didn't I know that there was such an immortal gathering in the past? What is the Bo Si pool mentioned on the sticker? That's a celestial pool to the west of the heavenly palace. It's hundreds of miles away from the sect. Yu Hong pointed to the west and said, "Every 100 years, an immortal spring will appear there. It is formed by immortal qi, and it is rumored that the immortal qi there is even denser than the immortal meridians. Therefore, the previous Bo Si emperor would hold a Bo Si immortal gathering every 100 years. Inviting the monarchs of the Bo Si countries to taste the spring is also a reward for them. The location of the immortal spring is a beautiful sea of flowers to begin with. The scenery is beautiful." Yu Hong continued to explain. Immortals from other continents often go there because of its fame. So, the Bo Si Immortal Gathering slowly became a grand gathering of the immortal world, hosted by the Bo Si Emperor himself, once every 100 years. "Then why do you say it's going to be reopened?" Lone Moon continued to ask. "Hasn't it been reopened in the thousands of years we've been away?" "Indeed not." She shook her head and said, "That celestial pool was originally at the border of the Bo Si's 9 heavens. Later on, when the immortal realm and demon realm merged, the immortal spring happened to be at the intersection. In the past, the relationship between the immortal and demon realms was not as good as it is now, so no immortals dared to go there anymore." Lone Moon asked. "Yes." Yu Hong nodded. "The immortal spring is useless to the demons, and the immortals don't go there. Naturally, no one thought of that place. So we didn't do anything about it. In addition to the relationship between the monarchs and the sect." She didn't continue, but her expression wasn't very good. Her meaning was also very clear. Lone Moon's face darkened too. Of course, he remembered clearly what kind of people the 15 country emperors of the Bo Si were. On the surface, it was under the jurisdiction of the Bo Si, but in reality, it might not be sincere. When the invincible sect took over the Bo Si, they had wanted to replace it and collude with the previous immortal officials to take advantage of them. Only after Lone Moon saw through him and beat him up by chef did he become more obedient. But they had left for thousands of years. Although the sect had Lan Hua, the former emperor, and they couldn't openly betray the Bo Si, they had done many small things in secret. On the day of Yu Hong's wedding, all the celestial emperors came to congratulate her, but none of the 15 country emperors of the Bo Si showed up. In the years that the sect master has been away, these so-called monarchs have all died. On the surface, they seem to be sincere, but behind the scenes, they are spreading rumors everywhere, saying that Emperor Lan Hua is from the demon race, and temporarily taking over Invincible Heavenly Palace is a plot by the demon world to swallow up the Bo Si, deliberately provoking a dispute between the two worlds. Yu Hong said indignantly, "If not for the celestial emperors of the other continents coming out to clarify things, and their cultivation levels being lower than Lan Hua's, those lowly people would have long attacked the heavenly palace and replaced it." Lone Moon looked down at the invitation card in his hand again. The more he listened, the deeper his frown became. "Elder Lone Moon," Yu Hong said worriedly, "they suddenly proposed to reopen the Bo Si Immortal Gathering. It's definitely not to congratulate the Celestial Emperor's return. They must have other intentions. They just want to provoke a dispute and fish in troubled waters." Lone Moon threw the invitation card on the table beside him. He saw through such a small trick at one glance. He laughed coldly and said, "It's best if they can make us kill each other, so that they can reap the benefits." Yu Hong was stunned, and a hint of confusion flashed across her eyes. "The meaning of being an elder? Can't you tell?" Lone Moon pointed at the invitation card and said, "That invitation card is filled with congratulatory words for the return of the Bo Si Emperor. 9 out of 10 sentences are words expressing joy, expectation, and longing. The words are exaggerated, making it seem as if Chef, this celestial emperor, had an affair with them in the past." No. The moment he finished, the person who was peeling nuts at the side suddenly interrupted. After thinking about it, she asked seriously, "What do I want their legs for? It's not like they can be used for cooking." Yu Hong. Lone Moon. Are you sure you're not here to make a joke? Is there a problem with these congratulatory words? Yu Hong still didn't understand. Of course there's no problem with us. Lone Moon laughed and knocked on the invitation card with his flute. But the key is that this invitation card is not just for us to see. More importantly, it's specially written for Lan Hua to see. Yu Hong was stunned. What has this got to do with Boss Lan? Lone Moon laughed even colder. Lan Hua has been in the sect for so many years, and his cultivation is the highest. Although he's a fiendish cultivator, he was once an Celestial Emperor. The entire immortal world thinks that he is the Bo Si Celestial Emperor. Now that we're back, they say that he was just a substitute manager, and Chef is the real Celestial Emperor. What would you think if it were you? Lan Hua didn't manage the invincible sect. Yu Hong explained. Everything in the sect was handled by her and her junior martial sisters. In the past 3,000 years, aside from researching all kinds of spells, Lan Hua had been fooling around with his buddy Radish, who knew how many messes he had cleaned up. But others don't know. Lone Moon glanced at her. Who would have thought that Lan Hua, who had Demon King cultivation and guarded the Bo Si for thousands of years, really had no interest in the so-called Celestial Emperor position. And he himself was just an idler in the invincible sect, the kind that needed to pay rent. No one would believe such a thing if he told others. So, they proposed to reopen the Bo Si Immortal Gathering to make Boss Lan unhappy, so that he can fight with Elder I Ching for the position of Bo Si Celestial Emperor? Yu Hong's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Lan Hua and Elder I Ching? Those people were too imaginative, weren't they? Let's not talk about how to put together a person who stayed in the cultivation room every day to research all kinds of new spells, and a person who stayed in the kitchen every day to research all kinds of new dishes. To make these two hands-off shopkeepers fight for the position of Celestial Emperor. You must be joking. They would only work together to throw it far away, okay? Not to mention that Lan Hua was easygoing and open-minded about everything other than cultivation. Elder I Ching never liked to talk to people. It was very difficult for the two to have a conflict. Unless it was for. She turned her head subconsciously and looked at the person who was not nibbling on a fruit, but had a cold face, and was quickly tapping something on a light screen. She instantly felt a surge of excitement in her heart. Sect Master is indeed powerful, worthy of being Sect Master. Greater than over equal to. Those country emperors are full of schemes and dark thoughts, and think that everyone is like them. Lone Moon laughed coldly, his eyes full of sarcasm. After a while he turned to look at Yu Hong and said, "Go and reply to them. Just say that we will hold this Bo Si Immortal Gathering on time." Do we have to do it? Yu Hong was stunned. Of course. Lone Moon smiled and said, "Don't they want to go? Then we not only have to do it, but we have to do it on a grand scale. Not only do we have to invite the country emperors, but also all the exalted immortals in the Bo Si." Ha! Yu Hong was stunned. But there are hundreds of people with exalted immortal cultivation in the Bo Si. The more the merrier. Lone Moon's eyes narrowed into a line as he smiled. Don't they like to play tricks? Anyway, we have nothing to do. Let's play with them to our heart's content. Yes. Yu Hong then turned and went out to put up the notice. Although she did not know what Elder Lone Moon wanted to do, she felt that she should light a candle for the country emperors in advance. Chapter 408. Alright, Chef. Lone Moon thought of something and turned to look at I Ching, who was still shelling. He took out a storage bag and said, "Send these immortal herbs to Lan Hua later, and help him refine some supreme-grade Immortal Contest pills." Immortal Contest pill. I Ching was stunned. The Immortal Contest pill could directly raise one's cultivation level, and the supreme-grade Immortal Contest pill could even raise one's cultivation level by a whole realm. However, the conditions to refine it were extremely harsh. Not to mention all kinds of rare immortal herbs. The most important thing was that it required a special divine deviant fire to refine it. So even though everyone knew of this pill recipe, no one in the entire immortal world was able to concoct such an immortal pill. Except for Invincible Sect, they did not lack immortal herbs, but deviant fire. What deviant fire could compare to I Ching's true phoenix fire? That was why they could really cultivate it. The disciples of the sect are all body cultivators, so they don't need such pills. Body cultivators cultivated their bodies. And no matter how good the pills were, there would still be impurities left in the body, and there might even be pill toxins. To other immortals, it was nothing, but to body cultivators, it was a huge hindrance to their cultivation. Therefore, other than emergency pills, the sect wouldn't allow its disciples to consume pills that increased their immortal power. It's not for the disciples of the sect. Lone Moon shook his head. Before he could explain, Shining, who was checking the data beside him, suddenly interrupted. He's preparing to dig a hole for those country emperors. As she tapped on the screen, she said, raise the cultivation of the people around them to the same level as them. Let them fight amongst themselves first. To put it simply, Shining turned and glanced coldly at the other party. He's causing trouble. They came up with this idea themselves. Lone Moon said innocently. He was just giving them a taste of their own medicine. Didn't he want to start a fight between Chef and Lan Hua for the position of emperor? What if someone fought with them for the throne first? At that time, would they still be so free? Lone Moon's eyes darkened. Their invincible sect was not so easily bullied. They didn't know about it before, but now that they had come knocking on their door, he naturally had to get back at them. Shining frowned and turned to glance thoughtfully at Lone Moon, whose face was full of bad ideas. Sister said that as an assistant, she shouldn't interfere too much with the development of the living beings in the plane. Now that she was the manager, shouldn't she remind them? She needed to reason with them. Oh, she took a deep breath and said in a gentle tone. Are you an idiot? Lone Moon didn't feel relieved at all. Instead, he felt like he had been stabbed. What? It's completely meaningless for a plain assistant to interfere in a conflict between native life forms. You're different from them. What's there to be proud of bullying a bunch of kids? If that's the case, he should understand, right? Didn't we have a good talk today? Carrot. Lone Moon wanted to spit a mouthful of blood at her face. Why did she bring a knife when she said something perfectly fine? I'm doing this once and for all. If I don't resolve this issue now, those monarchs will only make things worse in the future. We can't just watch our disciples get bullied, right? Do you think I care about this? Isn't it all because of you lazy people? Who's the sect leader? Shining paused. She thought about the girls she met yesterday who smiled happily at her, and her heart softened. That seemed to make sense. Big Sister didn't seem to say what would be the effect of an assistant interfering in these things. Forget it, whatever. So she looked at Lone Moon again and said seriously, as long as you're happy. Lone Moon. What's going on? Even more infuriating. This must be sarcasm, it must be. Damn it, don't stop me. I'll go to the papers now. Then I'll go find Lan Hua. Chef suddenly stood up and interrupted their conversation. Father Neo, other than the Immortal Contest pill, do you want to refine any other pills? Lone Moon then suppressed the anger in his heart. Let Lan Hua do as he sees fit. All right. He suddenly thought of something and looked at Shining. Where's the dandelion that Radish gave you yesterday? Let Chef bring it to Lan Hua. It can improve the quality of the pills. Shining stiffened. Even her hand that was about to light up the screen stopped. Flowers still have to be taken back. That was the first time she received flowers. Are you a demon? Where did you put it? Seeing that she did not speak for a long time, Lone Moon asked again. If that dandelion is not sealed with sorcery, it will lose its effect after a day. Don't want to give it, not happy. No need. I Ching subconsciously turned and looked at Shining, who still had a cold expression. I'll just ask Radish for some more. Ha. Shining looked up in surprise, her eyes widening. Good person. There's ready-made ones, why make a trip? Lone Moon frowned. You know that Radish only listens to Shining. Even if you go, he might not give it to you. Wait. Why are you holding a kitchen knife? He will give it to you. I Ching said seriously. As long as you're happy. Straight face. I Ching turned to look at his master, who still had a cold expression. He pushed the nuts that he had been peeling for a long time towards her. Master, do you want to eat? Shining paused. She looked down at the plate full of nuts in front of her. Her expression did not change, but her eyes widened in surprise. A while later. Eat. She slowly reached out to pick one up and quickly stuffed it into her mouth. So crispy, so delicious. This is a good person. The corner of I Ching's mouth turned up slightly. Then he turned to look for Lan Hua. Shenning stuffed a few more nuts into her mouth, eating as she turned to look at his retreating figure. Her heart warmed for no reason, but a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. She felt that this disciple of hers was strange. He seemed to be treating her too well, not like a master and disciple at all. She turned to look at Father Nyo, wanting to clarify, and subconsciously reached out to tug at his hair. Ouch! Lone Moon felt a pain in his scalp and jumped up. Holy shit! Why did you suddenly pull my hair so hard? His scalp was about to fall off. Shen Ying's hand froze. What should she do? She pulled the wrong hair. He's going to be angry, right? I pulled your clothes. Her expression did not change. Do you think I'm blind? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Don't hide your hand behind your back if you have the guts. Rubbing his scalp that was hurting, he turned to glare at her and asked, What exactly do you want? I have something to ask you. Shen Ying looked at the nuts on the table again. That I Ching is really my disciple? If he's not your disciple, is he supposed to be my disciple? Lone Moon rubbed his head and rolled his eyes. Just disciple? Lone Moon finally understood what she meant. He paused and said with some surprise, Holy shit, no way? Didn't I Ching tell you about this? Then were you two playing house last night? Shen Ying tilted her head. What did he say? Of course he's not just your disciple, he's your boyfriend. With that said, she added, Haven't you met his parents already? In the next moment, Shen Ying's cold expression, which she had been maintaining very well, cracked. Her face instantly turned red like a ripe tomato. Boyfriend? Meet his parents. My sister. Chapter 409. I Ching felt that Master had been a little strange these few days. Although there seemed to be no change on the surface, she was still that cold look. But he always felt that Master would often look at him out of the corner of her eye. Whether it was cooking, cutting, or washing vegetables, she would always sneak a glance at him. And her expression was very strange. It seemed to be probing, puzzled, inexplicable, and a little misconception of shyness. Master, is there something wrong? I Ching finally couldn't help but ask. The person who was typing on the data at the table stiffened. Her hands paused, and after a while she replied coldly, No. She pretended as if nothing had happened, and let out a cold breath. With that said, she turned back and lowered her head to continue typing. Her head was so low that it was almost buried in the light screen in front of her. Only the side of her ear revealed a strange red color. I Ching was stunned and even more puzzled. After thinking for a while, he stepped forward and sat on the chair beside her. He pushed the pastries in his hand in her direction. The pastries this time are more troublesome to make. Is Master blaming me for being too slow and getting hungry after waiting for so long? Pastries. Shen Ying was stunned. Then she moved her big round eyes from above the light screen and stared straight at the extra plate of pastries on the table. Her eyes became even rounder and her nose twitched. So fragrant. Is this a new invention? Yes. Master, why don't you help me try it? I Ching moved the plate in her direction again. All right, I'll try it for you. Shen Ying's expression did not change. Something flashed in her eyes. After a while, she slowly reached out to take a piece and quickly stuffed it into her mouth. In the next moment, her eyes narrowed. So delicious. It's even more delicious than before. This is my first time making this kind of pastries. What do you think, Master? I Ching asked seriously. Shen Ying opened her eyes quickly and glanced at him. Shouldn't she praise him for being so delicious? So she replied coldly, Not bad. With that said, she took another piece and stuffed it into her mouth. Then another piece, another piece. Seeing that the plate full of pastries was about to be emptied, the corner of I Ching's mouth unconsciously lifted. As long as Master likes it. His gaze instantly became soft like water, as if there was only one person left in the world in front of him. Shen Ying felt a little awkward under his gaze. She tilted her head and glanced at him. Suddenly, she recalled what Lone Moon had said earlier. Her heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but blush. Was he really her boyfriend? That was why he was so nice to her. He changed her clothes, changed her blanket, wiped her hands and stayed by her side. More importantly, He could cook a lot of delicious food that she had never eaten before. She glanced at him again. He was also very handsome. Having a boyfriend like him seemed not bad. Greater than or equal to 4 all. However, Big Sis had said that puppy love was not allowed before the age of 18. No. Didn't they say that she had lost her memory due to hibernation, and that she was actually 28 years old? Then, that shouldn't be considered puppy love, right? And didn't that person called Lone Moon say that they had already met the parents? So Big Sis had agreed? A terrifying face appeared in her mind. She subconsciously shivered. She turned back and scanned I Ching's face from head to toe. She really couldn't help but ask, "You really met my sister? Why do you ask that, master?" I Ching faltered, but still nodded honestly. "Yes, I did." "Then did she do anything to you?" I Ching shook his head. "No. But he did give Father Nyo a beating." "Really? No. This doesn't make sense." Shen Ying's face was full of disbelief. She scanned him again and said seriously, "You're actually still alive? His legs weren't even broken." "Forget it." Shen Ying decided not to continue thinking about it. She looked at the last 2 pieces of pastries on the table and hesitated for a while. Gritting her teeth, she endured the pain and handed one over. "For you." "Ah." I Ching faltered. He didn't want to eat it. "Master, I didn't eat." Shen Ying did not wait for him to finish and directly stuffed it into his mouth. This was for her boyfriend. I Ching didn't pay attention. He subconsciously opened his mouth and felt a soft hand brushing past his lips. His mouth was filled with sweetness. "Master, master." Only then did he realize something. His whole body froze. His face instantly turned red, and his heart beat so fast that it seemed like it was about to jump out. This was the first time Master was like this. His gaze unconsciously followed the other party's hand. Shen Ying had already picked up the last piece of pastry and stuffed it into her mouth. As she ate, she even licked the pastry crumbs on her fingertips. A moment later, he realized something. He looked down at his own hand, and his whole body stiffened. Her hand seemed to have he subconsciously turned back. Their eyes met. Instantly, they understood something. The next moment, a huge wave of red climbed onto their faces. The air seemed to heat up, as if there were pink bubbles rising. When Lone Moon came in, he saw this scene. They looked at each other affectionately for 10,000 years. For a moment, he seemed to smell the smell of dog food. The corner of his mouth twitched. He could not help but burst the pink bubbles around them. "Hey, have you two seen enough?" They looked at each other for a minute. The two stiffened as if they were shocked. They both turned their heads. One buried his eyes in the light screen, and the other stood up. Father Nyo, what's the matter?" "It's time to go." "Go what?" Lone Moon frowned. He scanned him up and down. "Did you forget that today is the day of the Bo Si Immortal Gathering? It's getting late. Yu Hong and the others have already gone over early in the morning. I specially came to call you." He looked up at the sky. "When Boss Land's Immortal Contest pills are ready, we'll go." As he spoke, Lan Hua walked in with a bottle of pills. "Here are the pills you wanted. A total of 200 pills. Thank you for your hard work." Lone Moon took the pills from Lan Hua's hand. He took out a Dharma artifact and threw it into the air. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge 5-colored spirit bird. As it flapped its wings, layers of auspicious clouds appeared. Immortal chi surrounded it. It was like an illusion, full of showiness. This was a bird that was very suitable to show off. Lone Moon raised his hand and conjured a seal. The spirit bird that the Dharma artifact transformed into flew down instantly. In an instant, it occupied more than half of the yard. "Let's go." He waved at them. "Oh yes, Boss Lan, you go too." "Me?" Lan Hua was stunned. "Why should I go?" He did not need to increase his cultivation. Besides, that immortal spring was useless to the demons. "You must go." How could he slap them in the face if he did not go? "But I still have an appointment with Brother Radish and Nephew Dandelion to find new immortal herbs today." "Since when did Song Run become your nephew? Do you have to accept it so quickly?" "Why don't you go?" "I really don't." 3 years of rent-free. "Yes, Father Nyo." "No problem, Father Nyo." He changed his words instantly. "Lone Moon." "I Ching." "Shen Ying." Chapter 410. The three of them mounted their swords and flew onto the bird's back. They saw that there was a lotus platform on the bird's back. It was very wide and could accommodate more than 10 people. Once they got on, the giant bird spread its wings and flew up. Along the way, it was like laying out a carpet, scattering colorful auspicious clouds and dazzling spirit light. Their appearance had to be shocking. Fortunately, he found this weapon from the warehouse last night. Lone Moon nodded in satisfaction. It was cool enough. It was just that the surroundings were too bright, and it was hard to recognize the way. Chef, look! He was just about to ask the person beside him, when he turned to find I Ching standing there in a daze. His eyes glanced at a certain someone beside him, as if he hadn't come back to his senses, his face full of lust. Lone Moon. King retard. He could only look at Lan Hua beside him. Boss Lan, have you been to the Bo-Si Immortal Spring? I've been there a few times. Lan Hua released his divine perception and pointed to the left. Just fly in that direction. It's about a few 100 miles away. We'll be there in a quarter of an hour. Lone Moon changed his hand seal and flew directly in that direction. Shening frowned at the side as if thinking of something. She opened a light screen and looked. The place you mentioned, is it here? She clicked on her wristband, and instantly a light screen appeared in front of the three of them. On it was a map. It was the terrain of the Bo-Si. She raised her hand and pointed to a red dot on the far left. The place we're going, is it near this marked point? Lan Hua was shocked by the sudden appearance of the map. Thinking of Shen Ying's ability, he didn't think much and looked carefully at the illusory map. He nodded and said, "Yes, this is the place where the immortal spring appeared." Shen Ying's frown deepened. "What's wrong?" Lone Moon asked. "What's wrong with this place?" Shen Ying turned off the map on the light screen and turned to look at him. 3 days ago, I scanned the data here and received a set of abnormal data signals. I've been trying to determine the specific direction. It can't be there, right? Lone Moon was shocked. Wait, you've been staring at that light screen these few days. You're investigating this? What else can I do? Shen Ying turned and glanced at him coldly. Do you think I'm just fooling around like the rest of you? Can't you speak properly? How am I not doing proper work? And you, a person who eats 5 meals a day, how dare you say such things? What exactly are those abnormalities? Is it an invasion? Do you think invaders are like cabbages in the north? A few dozen kilograms at a time? Shen Ying gave him a look of disdain and explained coldly. My initial guess is that it's just a spatial fold or a fault. It won't have too much of an impact on the plane. We can only be sure when we get there. What? What the hell was that? Don't understand? Shen Ying tilted her head and glanced at the two of them, who were in a daze. This question was indeed a little difficult to understand. Back then, she had also studied for several months. Let me put it this way. They were still newbies. As a manager, she couldn't destroy their confidence. Thus, she took a step forward and said word by word in a friendly tone. With your almost 0 IQ, it's very difficult for me to explain it to you. Lone Moon. I Ching. Swish swish, the two heard the sound of knives stabbing. Today was a good day to be a manager. For all. What exactly are you talking about? Lan Hua, who was at the side, was confused. He looked back and forth between the cold Shen Ying and Lone Moon, who was already on the verge of exploding. Taking a deep breath, Lone Moon suppressed the anger in his heart. As an adult, he couldn't be calculative with children. He turned to look at Lan Hua and patted his shoulder. It's better not to know. Otherwise, he would be angered to death. Lan Hua. Bo-Si Immortal Gathering. Immortals gathered in the sea of flowers surrounded by immortal chi. There were immortals from various countries of the Bo-Si, and there were also immortals from other continents who had received the news and rushed over to join in the fun. After all, the Bo-Si Immortal Gathering was held after more than 3,000 years. It was a rare opportunity. At a glance, all the immortals sitting there had high cultivation levels. The lowest was a Stygian immortal, and most were exalted immortals. Yu Hong looked at the immortals carefully before turning to the disciple beside her. Are all the country emperors here? The country emperor of East Sui hasn't arrived yet, the disciple answered. Yu Hong frowned. and a hint of depression rose in her heart. In the next moment, they heard a bird cry that pierced through the clouds. The originally noisy crowd quietened down and looked up at the sky. They saw a huge spirit bird flying in their direction. Auspicious clouds filled the sky wherever it passed, bringing with it a shocking suppression. Sect Master is here. Yu Hong was delighted and nodded to the disciple beside her. The disciple immediately turned and shouted, "Sect Bo Si Celestial Emperor is here." The colorful spirit bird landed, and the country emperors all turned to look. They saw Lan Hua at the front, and then I Ching at the back. Instantly, their faces lit up, and they all looked like they were watching a good show. The four of them walked down from the bird. Only then did the crowd turn and bow to them. "Greetings, Celestial Emperor." The person opposite them did not respond. Lone Moon just waved his hand, and the huge bird turned into a white light, turning back into a Dharma artifact and flying back into his hand. Only then did the four of them walk towards the main seat. The country emperors exchanged a look, and their gazes swept back and forth between Lan Hua and I Ching. Their eyes were full of excitement, especially when they saw the two of them walking towards the main seat. They could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. They did not know if the immortal officials who came to make arrangements first were ignorant, but there was actually only one main seat. The relationship between Lan Hua and that celestial emperor I Ching was very subtle. One was the real Bo Si Celestial Emperor, who was elected by all the continent's emperors, and the other was the current Celestial Emperor, who had long been in charge of the entire Bo Si. The key was that the two of them appeared at the immortal gathering together. Although the main seat was a small matter, it represented the real position of the Celestial Emperor. Who would sit on it? The more the country emperors thought about it, the more excited they became. They could not wait for the two of them to fight on the spot. Indeed, the two of them walked side by side towards the main seat. Seeing that they were getting closer, the two of them had no intention of turning around, and walked all the way to the main stage. "It's coming, it's coming." The country emperors subconsciously held their breath, and stared at the two of them, as they walked straight to the main seat. And then, the two of them turned around. Neither of them sat down, one to the left and the other to the right, and walked to the two sides of the chair respectively. And the young female immortal, who followed behind the two of them, sat on the chair sideways. Perhaps because the chair was too high, she even kicked her legs twice before sitting steadily. She looked up at the people present coldly. The country emperors. The immortals. What the hell? What happened to the big fight that was promised? What happened to the two emperors not getting along? What happened to the saying that two tigers cannot share a mountain? Where did this tigress come from? But the people from the invincible immortal palace looked as if it was a matter of course, including I Ching and Lan Hua. I Ching was already used to standing behind Shining. As for Lan Hua, he had already turned to find Yu Hong, who was beside him, and asked tentatively, "Sister Little Hong, Little Black asked me to ask you, can he get lost?" "Oh." Lan Hua immediately shrank back, and silently lit a candle for a certain person, who was chased out of his home for a few months. "I've tried my best, brother." Chapter 411. All the country emperors were stunned by Invincible Heavenly Palace's sudden move. They stared blankly at the person sitting on the main seat, unable to react for a moment. Even when Lone Moon politely asked everyone not to be overly courteous, as well as the large part of the official speech, they did not hear it clearly. They still maintained their bowing posture for a long time. He glanced left and right at Lan Hua and I Ching, then at the person on the main seat. They exchanged glances and were about to ask. The immortal chi in the surroundings suddenly began to thicken. "The immortal spring is about to appear," someone exclaimed. Everyone instantly forgot about the woman's identity and turned to look expectantly at the center of the hall. Even the immortals standing in the middle hurriedly stepped aside. The center of the immortal gathering instantly became empty. The surrounding immortal chi also became thicker and thicker. As though it was being attracted by something, it began to gather towards the center. For a time, the center of the arena was shrouded in white immortal chi, faintly showing signs of materializing. Just as the immortal chi was gathering, A white light suddenly flashed in the middle, like a bolt of lightning streaking across the dense immortal chi. Huh. Sheneng, who was sitting in the main seat with a cold expression, suddenly turned to look at the center and frowned thoughtfully. Just now, the white light only shone for a moment before it disappeared like lightning. In the next moment, the sound of flowing water could be heard. The dense immortal energy finally condensed into water droplets, forming a spiral and gathering in the center. The white mist-like immortal energy in the surroundings also slowly dissipated. In less than the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, a clear spring appeared in the originally empty field. The sparkling spring water reflected the sunlight and seemed to be sprinkled with a layer of gold. Moreover, the entire spring was floating at a height of 1 meter in the middle. Looking from above, one could even see the flowers and plants on the ground. The immortals looked excited, and many of them even subconsciously picked up their cups, waiting for the Bo-Si Emperor to speak and start drinking. One had to know that the immortal spring only appeared once every 100 years. Every time it appeared, it would only appear for an hour. If it was too late, the immortal spring would turn invisible again. Even if they wanted to drink it, they wouldn't be able to. Lone Moon had no intention of making things difficult for them. The immortal spring could indeed increase immortal power, which was very beneficial for cultivation, but it could not directly increase one's cultivation. In fact, its effects were not much different from a top-grade spiritual supplement pill, but the latter was a bit more difficult to obtain. So he directly stepped forward and announced loudly, "Those who come are guests. Since you are already here, there is no need to stand on ceremony." As he spoke, he immediately cast a water manipulation art. In the next moment, the water in the spring transformed into hundreds of streams that flew into the cups of the various immortals. "Fellow immortals, please." Only then did everyone stand up and return the greeting. "Thank you, Your Majesty. May I know which sovereign emperor is this immortal official using to invite everyone to the spring?" Suddenly, a sarcastic voice rang out and a cyan-robed man flew down from the sky. Behind him were tens of ascendant immortals. When he landed, he did not look at the platform. Instead, he looked at the various country emperors and said, "Fellow country emperors, you have arrived early. I did not know that the returning imperial monarch you fellows were talking about would be so impatient. To think that he would not even wait for everyone to arrive before he started drinking the spring water." Sheneng frowned and turned to look at Chef beside her. Who is this idiot who looks like he's here to cause trouble, and whose face is filled with the word cannon fodder? I Ching was stunned by the long list of adjectives. He replied in a low voice, "Master, this person should be the emperor of East Sui Yutsong. I heard that he only became a young emperor 1,000 years ago." "Oh." Shenning glanced at him and lost interest. Loman's eyes narrowed. Finally, they were going to start trouble. "Young emperor you, what are you talking about?" Another country emperor at the side scolded loudly, but there was not much anger in his expression. "This Bo-Si immortal gathering. We are here to congratulate Emperor I Ching on his return to the throne. You shouldn't have come late. How can you talk nonsense?" "What Emperor I Ching?" He snorted and glared at everyone disdainfully. "I only know that our Bo-Si has Emperor Lan Hua. Since when did we have another Emperor I Ching?" The country emperor who retorted looked angry and shouted even louder. "How dare you? Emperor I Ching has already taken over Bo-Si 3,000 years ago. He is the rightful emperor of Bo-Si. This country emperor has already said that that happened 3,000 years ago. I have only taken over East Sui for 1,000 years. That's why I only know Emperor Lan Hua, and not this Emperor I Ching. You. Don't forget. Who was it who fought against the demons and guarded the immortal and demonic realms for the past 1,000 years? As for that Emperor I Ching, I don't know what he has done. I will never acknowledge such a person." The country emperors fell silent. They all looked angry, but helpless to refute. Lone Moon looked back and forth between the two groups of people, and did not interrupt. One played the bad cop, the others played the good cop. The division of labor was quite clear. Emperor Lan Hua. The one called Yutsong had already walked straight towards Lan Hua. He cupped his fists and said with a face full of loyalty and determination, "Don't worry. Even if I have to sacrifice this life of mine, I will never acknowledge any returning emperor. Ha! Lan Hua, who was hesitating on how to persuade Yu Hong, and was not listening at all, paused. What did you say? Monarch, Yu Tsong said even more solemnly. This boci is yours. You deserve the position of monarch. As he spoke, he turned to look at the main seat and pointed there. This person who popped out of nowhere is completely unworthy. Halfway through his words, he suddenly stopped. He looked at the cold-faced woman sitting high up on the main seat, and could not react for a long while. Who is this? Didn't they say that Emperor I Ching was a man? This was different from the shadow recording stone. He subconsciously turned to look at the other country emperors. What was going on? This was different from what they had agreed on. How was he supposed to continue singing? The other country emperors were all confused. They did not even have time to ask. Lan Hua, who came back to his senses, finally understood what he meant. Was he asking him to fight for the seat with good heart? He immediately jumped up. Hey, don't talk nonsense. Who wants to sit in that seat? I have never thought of sitting. I like to stand. I was born to like to stand. What can you do about it? Asking Good Heart to give up her seat for him. That would be terrible. Are you trying to make me go bankrupt? I'll kill you. In the next moment, he felt Lan Hua's murderous aura coming towards him. Yu Tsong was shocked and stunned. For a moment, he did not know what he meant. But he had to continue acting according to the script. He said in a low voice, Emperor, you have been managing the boci for so many years. Are you really willing to hand over thousands of years of hard work to someone else? Wait, who said that I was managing the boci in the past? Lan Hua looked at him, as if he was looking at a retard. He scanned the person in front of him from head to toe. I have never managed it. He was just a lodger. Yu Tsong. All the country emperors. What? What was going on? Had they seen a ghost in these thousands of years? Chapter 412. The country emperors were confused. The one in charge was not Emperor Lan Hua. Could it be for a moment? All eyes turned to look at I Ching on the right. I Ching frowned and replied, It's not my business. Everyone was even more confused. Someone asked subconsciously, If the two emperors are not in charge, then who is it? Lan Hua and I Ching exchanged a look, and in the next moment, all the Invincible Sect disciples answered in unison. It's Father Niao. Ha! Everyone. What the hell? Who is Father Niao? I am. Lone Moon stepped forward and smiled like a sunflower at everyone. The immortals were stunned, but the country emperors recognized that this person seemed to be the original elder of Invincible Sect, young Emperor Lone Moon. On the day I Ching became emperor, he was the one in charge. But Yu Tsong did not recognize him. His eyes turned and he scolded. Ridiculous. Who are you? Our boci is also one of the great 10 continents. How can we let a mere young emperor be in charge? Is that so? Lone Moon could not be bothered to watch them continue. He adjusted his cultivation and directly released his suppressive force. In the next moment, everyone felt their bodies become heavy. An overwhelming and terrifying suppressive force swept over. Not to mention the other immortals. Even the country emperors felt their blood boiling, their minds unsteady. They instantly had the urge to bow down and worship. They could not muster any thoughts of resistance. Especially Yu Tsong, who was the closest. He was directly pressed down to his knees with a thud. His entire body was almost pressed down and rubbed against the ground. Cold sweat instantly covered his entire body. His heart was filled with shock and boundless fear immediately swept over him. This terrifying suppressive force was definitely not just from Celestial Emperor. Who exactly was he? It seems like country emperor you has some opinions about me? Lone Moon's smile deepened. Yu Tsong's face became even paler. He felt his blood boiling, as if he would be crushed under this terrifying suppressive force in the next moment. He immediately replied in a panic. No, I don't dare. All the country emperors turned pale. They suddenly recalled the day more than 3,000 years ago, when the country emperors of the 10 continents besieged Invincible Sect. Suddenly, a chasm that almost severed the entire celestial realm appeared. To this day, no one knew who did it. Over the years, there had been some speculations on the various continents. At that time, the Invincible sect might have been hiding a person that even the celestial emperors could not afford to offend. This was also why after the Invincible sect took over the Boci, even though the celestial emperor had disappeared for thousands of years, the other mainlands did not dare to have any designs on them. From the looks of it now, could it be that the person who drove the immortals away and drew the heavenly chasm was this person who seemed to be only a young emperor? Was that why Emperor Lan Hua denied it so quickly when Yu Tsang challenged him? Because he and Emperor I Ching had never been the ones to make decisions. The one who actually controlled the Boci continent was Lone Moon. The more the country emperors thought about it, the more terrified they became. Their faces turned pale, and it was unknown whether it was because of the pressure or because they were frightened by their own imaginations, but cold sweat poured down their faces. Of course, Lone Moon did not know that these country emperors' brains had gone to the sky. The pressure swept across the entire place, and when it was sufficient he retracted it. Ever since he became an assistant, he felt that cultivation was not a problem. If he wanted to become a god, he could become a god. If he wanted to become an immortal, he could become an immortal. There was no pressure at all in advancing. Forget it. Fellow immortals, don't forget that this trip is to participate in the immortal gathering and drink the immortal spring together. This immortal spring will disappear in an hour. Don't forget what we're here for. Lone Moon twirled the flute in his hand and turned to look at Yu Tsang, who was closest to him. Country Emperor Yu, don't you agree? Yu Tsang did not dare to retort. He was really frightened by the pressure just now and had long lost his arrogant look. Even though the pressure was not there, he still felt his legs turn to jelly. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, Yes, fellow immortal is right. I also know that everyone is wholeheartedly thinking about the Boci. That's why you are so concerned about the position of the Celestial Emperor. Lone Moon scanned the crowd and said earnestly, But it's just a title after all. We've never taken it to heart. For us immortal cultivators, working hard to improve our cultivation is the right path. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat and praised him. Don't worry. Lan Hua and I Ching are all concerned about the immortals of the Boci. Lone Moon's eyes narrowed as he continued. That's why we invited all immortals today to reconvene the Boci Immortal Gathering and drink the immortal spring together to improve our cultivation. And the Celestial Emperor considered that the immortal gathering had been suspended for many years and missed a good opportunity, so he had long found a way to compensate everyone. As he spoke, he directly took out a bottle and opened it. Instantly, a few beams of light flashed and a dozen elixirs flew out. They spun in the air as if they were alive and floated in front of him. The elixir was faintly glowing with a faint gold color. A refreshing elixir fragrance wafted over. All the immortals present were energized. The surrounding immortal chi was unimaginably thick. Even the water in the immortal spring was surging. This is the immortal contest elixir. Someone exclaimed. The entire place was instantly in an uproar. It really is the immortal contest elixir. Only the immortal contest elixir has such thick immortal chi. Isn't it impossible to refine this elixir without a divine-grade deviant fire? I didn't expect that there are still immortal contest elixirs left in this world. And a dozen of them. Lone Moon glanced at everyone with satisfaction. In these few thousand years that Celestial Emperor I Ching left, he had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a few immortal contest elixirs. Just right to take advantage of this immortal gathering, to give them to all the immortals. As soon as he finished, everyone's eyes began to shine. How could they still remember to sow discord? They stared straight at those elixirs, unable to move their eyes away. But Lone Moon's tone changed. The quality of these elixirs is average. If they are used by those below young emperor, they can directly raise their cultivation by one big realm. A big realm. All the immortals took a deep breath, their eyes even brighter. Instead, it was the 15 country emperors whose expressions changed. Instantly, they had a bad premonition. Indeed, they only heard him continue. The number of these elixirs is limited. There are only 15. Coincidentally, there are 15 countries in my Boci. To show fairness, May the country emperors please choose one person each to receive this elixir. Lomun's eyes curved into crescents as he suddenly thought of something and added, "Oh, that's right. It's best to take this elixir directly with the immortal spring water. The effects will be the best." As soon as he said that, the immortals of the other continents were naturally envious, hating that they were not from the Bow Sea, while the exalted immortals brought by the emperors of the various countries were excited. He had just said that it would only be useful for cultivators below the young emperor level, which meant that the pill would eventually fall into their hands. This was a pill that could raise one's cultivation level by a whole level, and anyone who consumed it would become an emperor. Who wouldn't be tempted? On the other hand, the faces of the various country emperors darkened. They instantly understood what he meant, and could not help but want to vomit blood. It was true that the Immortal Contest pill could directly increase one's cultivation level, but it was not something that only exalted immortals could use. However, it was not as obvious for young emperors and above. He purposely made it clear that it was for the exalted immortals to use, because he did not want to give it to them directly. However, they couldn't openly refute that the monarch could use it as well. Otherwise, it would seem like they were greedy. In addition, their purpose for coming here was to provoke the two imperial monarchs. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, each of them brought at least 10 ascendant immortals with them. And this Immortal Contest pill was only one for each country emperor. Who should they give it to? This was not an ordinary elixir, but one that could raise one's cultivation level directly. Who wouldn't be jealous? In addition, those who could cultivate to the level of exalted immortals would more or less have some power behind them. Giving it to anyone would cause others to be unhappy. Moreover, the other party had clearly pointed out that it had to be taken with the immortal spring water. Wasn't this telling them that they had to eat it now? He did not give them the slightest chance to bring it back and manipulate it internally. Chapter 413. Have all the country emperors made up their minds? Lomun grinned like a fox. Watching the commotion unfold, he urged, "This immortal spring is about to disappear. Everyone, if you've thought it through, let your disciples collect the elixirs. Why don't we start with country emperor Yu?" He turned to look at the person closest to him. Yu Tsang, who was suddenly named, stiffened, but could not say no. He resisted the urge to vomit blood, and turned to look at the people behind him. He clenched his fists and pointed at the person on his right. "You go." Indeed, the other's eyes darkened. With Yu Tsang taking the lead, the other country emperors also chose an exalted immortal. In a short while 15 people were chosen. The atmosphere changed instantly. Apart from the 15 excited immortals in front, the other exalted immortals all looked disappointed, regretful, or resentful. Lomun turned his hand and cast a water manipulation spell. 15 streams of water flew out of the immortal spring and wrapped around the 15 elixirs. They flew in front of everyone. Their eyes lit up. They caught the elixirs with both hands and swallowed them. The elixirs need 3 days to fully take effect. Everyone remember to go into seclusion first. Everyone nodded in unison. The looks in the audience's eyes changed completely. There was even a polite exalted immortal who stepped forward and bowed deeply in the direction of Lomun and I Ching. "Thank you, Celestial Emperor. Thank you, fellow immortal Father Nyo." Once he said that, the others seemed to be enlightened and bowed in unison. "Thank you, Celestial Emperor. Thank you, fellow immortal Father Nyo." 14 Lomun, I Ching, Shining. Invincible sect people. Lomun's mouth twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, "My Dao name is Lomun. Scram, how dare you call me Father Nyo?" Fu *K. Everyone could only change their words and thank him again. The elixirs were finished. The country emperors did not have the mood to stay any longer. Especially Yu Tsang. He stood up and left before the immortal spring disappeared. The other country emperors also stood up and hurried back with their people. They were probably rushing back to appease the exalted immortals, who did not get the elixirs to prevent them from rebelling. Lomun did not stay either. He let them go. Soon, they would discover that the ones they really needed to guard against were not those who didn't take the pills, but those who did. The countries of the Bow Sea would probably be in chaos for a while. Do you know about the struggle for the throne? 0. An hour later, the immortal spring had completely disappeared. Only Invincible Sect, the organizer, was left in the entire venue. Lone Moon turned and told everyone to pack up and go home. Shining, let's go back. You want to get off work, without even finishing your work? Shining turned to look at him. Suddenly, she kicked her legs and jumped down. He walked straight to the center of the field, circled around the spot where the immortal spring had just appeared, and said in a low voice, "This is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" Lone Moon paused. "Master, did you discover something?" I Ching could not help but ask. Shining looked at them with a strange expression. A moment later, she moved her lips. She seemed to hesitate for a moment before saying, "Have your 5 senses been dispelled? Didn't you feel anything strange just now?" The two of them felt suffocated. They tried their best to deceive the dagger in her words. "You're saying that there's something wrong with the immortal spring?" Half. Shining frowned and said, "There's no problem at the back, but during the process of its formation, there was a moment of spatial chaos. I'm not sure of the exact reason. I don't have enough power now. So quickly go back to the time when it was just formed. I want to confirm it again." "What?" Lone Moon was stunned. "Go back to what?" "Of course it's the time." Shining paused. She turned and scanned them from head to toe. "You don't know how?" The two of them exchanged a look and shook their heads. "Then spatial reconstruction? What's that? Bending restoration?" "What restoration? Partial resetting, right?" "Huh." Xin Ying's expression instantly froze. She suddenly felt that these two assistants of hers were seriously lacking in basic knowledge. They were indeed pure novices. Thinking back, she had to train for a long time before she knew these things. She had to motivate them to learn. She stepped forward and said word by word. "What use do I have you?" Lone Moon. I Ching. Heart-piercing too. 0-inch master. Apart from the methods you mentioned just now, are there any other ways to find out the reason? I Ching stepped forward and asked seriously. Shining glanced at him. As if thinking of something, she subconsciously looked away and said, "I just felt something strange just now. I can't be sure unless I look again." "Look again." I Ching seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened. He exchanged a look with Lone Moon beside him and said in unison, "Illusion spell." Lone Moon immediately activated his immortal chi to cast the spell. In an instant, the scenery around them rippled like water. Suddenly, a series of illusions appeared around them. It was exactly the scene from an hour ago. The illusion spell was originally a detection spell. It gathered the remnant aura around them and used the form of an illusion to see what happened before. If they did not deliberately hide it, everything that happened within 3 days would appear. The image of the immortal spring just now reappeared beside the three of them. In order to see it more clearly, Lone Moon set up an array and turned the center into an illusion. Instantly, the scene before them became clearer. It was like what was happening right now. In the illusion, large amounts of immortal chi gathered towards the center, forming a large white fog. Shining hurriedly opened the light screen and began to operate it. Immediately, a large amount of data flashed across the screen. The immortal chi also became thicker and thicker. Because they were standing in the center, their bodies were already covered in white. Just as it was about to form, that familiar white light flashed again. The immortal chi turned into a spring. "Found it. It's this," Shining suddenly said. Lone Moon retracted the spell and removed the spells around them. "What's going on?" Shining tapped on the light screen. Immediately, it enlarged in front of the two of them. There was a picture on it. It was the scene where the white light appeared just now. The light looked like lightning and appeared right in the center. But on closer inspection, they could see a faint blue color in the middle of the white light. What was this? A crack in the fault of the realm, Shining explained. At that moment, an internal transportation passage was opened here. Internal? Lone Moon hesitated. Internal transportation passage? Wasn't that the realm gate? He was shocked. He turned to look at Chef beside him. The same thought flashed across their minds. "Chef, search for the aura of the immortal spring just now. Open the realm gate that connects here again. I Ching nodded. He closed his eyes and conjured a seal with both hands. Immediately, an array appeared beneath his feet. In a short while, the space in front of the three of them twisted. A crack appeared and slowly opened. Instantly, large amounts of chaotic aura surged out from inside. There was immortal chi and spirit chi. The three of them were shocked. They stared straight at the realm gate. Compared to the previous realm gates that connected to the mortal and divine realms, which were either white or black, the light in this realm gate was actually blue. Which realm did this lead to? Chapter 414. What's going on? Why are there two types of immortal and spirit chi in this realm gate? Lone Moon looked confused. Suddenly he thought of something and his eyes widened. It can't be the same as the other realm, right? The small world that trapped Meng Hong, and the rest was a realm where both immortal and spirit chi existed. I don't think so. I Ching sensed the spirit chi in the realm gate and said in a low voice, "This immortal chi is very weak. It should be from the formation of the immortal spring. There shouldn't be any immortal chi in the small world outside this realm gate." Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief then frowned. No matter what, it must be a trap left behind by the god fiend. There might be something waiting for us there. He activated his assistant seal, and then used a spell to investigate, only to find that the immortal chi disappeared the moment it entered the gate. There was no way of knowing where it led to. How can this be? He looked shocked. I can't find out which small world this realm gate is from. Chef, did you find anything strange when you opened the gate? I Ching shook his head. No, it was the same as when other realm gates opened. Then where did this lead to? It seems like we can only find out where it leads to if we go in. Lone Moon took another look at the realm gate in front of him. His expression darkened. He glanced at Shenning worriedly. Shenning, are you coming with us? Although this is not as serious as a plane invasion, your powers have not recovered yet. Shenning turned back to look at him. Was he worried about her? He was a qualified assistant. He deserved to be encouraged. With your kindergarten level IQ, you have so much confidence. Do you think I'm as stupid as you and can't protect myself? Don't worry, I'll protect you. For all, Lone Moon. I Ching. Just go along, why did you have to stab me? The two of them frowned. They would get used to stabbing people in the back after a while. On the other side, Yu Hong and the disciples had already packed up. Sect Master Elder were done. What's that? Yu Hong looked at the realm gate that suddenly appeared in the middle of them in surprise, but did not ask. Sect Master had her reasons for doing things anyway. Are we going back to the Heavenly Palace now? It's all right. Yu Hong, bring the disciples back with Lan Hua. Lone Moon handed over the Dharma artifact of the flamboyant rainbow bird and said, We still have some matters to attend to. We will catch up with you as soon as possible. Yes. Yu Hong nodded and took the Dharma artifact without hesitation. She led the disciples up the bird's back and flew away. Come back soon. Boss Lan also waved at them and continued to persevere as he moved closer to Yu Hong to put in a good word for her. Well, after all, he had received a lot of refining materials from Little Black. Little Red, why don't you see Little Black once? Just once. Get lost. One more word, and I'll kick you off the bird. Low-level tenant of Invincible Sect Lan. Let's go. Lone Moon waved his hand and looked at the master and disciple who were nearer to the realm gate. He instructed, Chef, hold him tight. Don't lose it again. I Ching suddenly thought of a certain person's dark history. He nodded and turned to hold the hand of the person beside him out of habit. Master, be careful. Shenning stiffened. She felt a warmth in her palms. A familiar warmth entered her palms and went straight to the bottom of her heart. Even her face seemed to heat up. Was this holding hands? It's unnecessary. It was very normal for a boyfriend and girlfriend to hold hands. She was not confused at all. Oh, ****. Oh, alright, let's hurry up and go. Lone Moon urged them again and set up a defensive array around the three of them. If it is really as Shenning said, and the Immortal Springs data is abnormal, there must be something wrong with this small world. As he conjured a seal, he added, "Let's hope this time won't be like the last time when Shen Ying went into hibernation again." With that, Shen Ying, who was about to step into the realm gate, suddenly froze. She stopped a step away from the realm gate and pulled I Ching, who was beside her. Lone Moon, who was behind her, did not stop in time and almost bumped into her. "Holy shit, why did you suddenly stop?" Shen Ying's expression remained cold. She turned to look at the people behind her. "We're not going." Ah. It was not just Lone Moon, even I Ching was stunned. Why? Did she have to drop the ball at the last minute? "Master, did you notice anything strange?" Lone Moon's heart tightened. He could not help but feel nervous. "What did you discover?" Shen Ying's frown deepened. She looked like she did not know what to say. Her assistant was very inquisitive. She should convince them properly. Because. She took a deep breath and looked at Father Neo with a serious expression that she had never shown before. "You just helped me set up a flag that I will die if I go out. So I've decided not to go." Lone Moon. I Ching. What kind of stupid reason was that? Did she have to be so childish? Shen Ying had already brought up the light screen. She quickly clicked a few times, and the interface immediately closed. Be it in movies or dramas, the main character always died this way. Cherish your life and stay away from flags. Wait, didn't you say that there's a problem with the data? Lone Moon felt full of grievance. He was wrong. This Shen Ying who released the poison was even more unreliable than the lazy one before. If we don't go, how do we know what's wrong there? Shen Ying looked up. This was a good question. As a manager, it was time to let the newbies understand the diversity of problem solving. Who said we can't investigate if we don't go? She still said coldly. Even if you don't have knowledge, you have to have some common sense. Even if you don't have common sense, please keep some memory. Use your tiny brains to think carefully. What's the correct process of monitoring a small world? What the hell was the correct process? The two of them paused. They suddenly thought of something. No wonder it was the divine realm. There's medicine to cure your stupidity. Shen Ying nodded. She always praised her subordinates. That's right. If they just wanted to find out which small world this special realm gate led to, they could just go to the divine realm and take a look. Let's go back. Lone Moon immediately cut through the void and opened a passage to the divine realm. In an instant, the three of them were already under the vast starry sky. Lone Moon turned and scanned the densely packed starry sky. Shen Ying, quickly find out which small world it is. Shen Ying was just about to bring up the light screen. She thought of something and turned to look at the two of them. You can't find it? Isn't this to save time? Lone Moon waved the wristband. I'm not as familiar with this wristband as you are. What's more, this is your divine realm. Who said we have to use this wristband to find it? Shen Ying looked at the two of them in surprise. This is technology from another plane. It has nothing to do with this world. I'm only using it because I'm used to it. You don't even. She stopped mid-sentence. She suddenly understood something. She looked at the two of them. Don't tell me. You don't know what assistant authority is at all. What? Chapter 415. What do you mean? Lone Moon hesitated. Wasn't assistant authority a cheat? He could adjust his cultivation at will, and was not restricted by the rules. Shen Ying's expression became even more strange. She scanned the two of them from head to toe. After a moment of silence, she said, Let's put it this way. She turned and pointed at the 3,000 worlds in front of them. What do you see? Lone Moon and I Ching exchanged a look. After a while they replied, The galaxy? Shen Ying's eyes widened, and her expression turned even colder. She looked like she wanted to expel them. A moment later, she sighed and shook her head. I thought you could be saved, but you really are blind. What should they do? It turned out that it wasn't that her assistant had a poor foundation, but that she had no foundation at all. Sigh, it's so tough. The two of them. Didn't you say that this starry sky is the three realms, the original appearance of this plane? Lone Moon could not help but ask. You can indeed see the entire plane from here. Shen Ying frowned and thought for a while before saying in a low voice. But who said that this plane originally looked like this? Isn't it? The more they listened, the more confused they became. Lone Moon stepped forward and said, "Weren't you the one who turned the divine realm into this?" "I transformed the plane into the starry sky out of habit." Shenning pulled out a star chart of the previous plane and explained, "The appearance is similar, it's just convenient to manage. But this is the immortal spirit plane. It's fundamentally different from our original place. The principle was similar, but there would always be differences, and it would not always be suitable. Besides, you're my assistants, so you have authority over this place. You don't have to follow my habits." "You mean to say?" Lone Moon was a little confused. He waved his hand. "This bracelet is actually not that useful? It has nothing to do with our assistant's abilities." Shenning nodded. "This is a product from another plane. Its influence on the border is limited." Lone Moon. Flips table. Degree. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I've been reading the instruction manual for months." Wait. He suddenly thought of something. Then why was it able to detect intruders before? And haven't you been using it all the time? And the band-aid you gave us to repair the plane also successfully repaired the plane crack. What band-aid? This is just a support item. Shenning shook her wristband. It can only carry out simple data monitoring and calculations. It has no direct impact on this world. The only ones who can really change the plane are the managers and assistants themselves. Master is saying. I Ching seemed to have figured something out. He stepped forward and said, "What could repair the plane crack back then was actually our own power." "Yes." Shenning nodded. "Every plane is actually different. It's just that the manager is the plane itself, and the assistant maintains the plane's stability. In other words, you have the ability to control the entire plane. It's just that the method of operation is different. My sister's plane can rely on technology, but this plane, a spell." I Ching continued. "What Master means is that all problems can be solved with sorcery." Lone Moon was stunned. He suddenly recalled that when they were investigating the immortal spring just now, she said a bunch of terms that he did not understand. But in the end, they were the ones who used the illusory technique to find out. It was the same effect, but the method could be different. Shenning turned around with some appreciation. He was indeed her boyfriend. Full marks for understanding. He was indeed outstanding. He needed to be praised. Greater than over equal to. Looks like the water in your brains has finally dried. I Ching. Lone Moon. The corners of their mouths twitched. They exchanged a look at each other, then turned to look at the starry sky. Indeed, compared to the complicated operation of the wristband, sorcery was much easier for them. But in such a huge plane, even if we use the detection sorcery, it's impossible to immediately find that small world with the special realm gate, Lone Moon said with a frown. There are so many sorcery in this 3 realms, but none of them can be so fast. We can't just go and learn at the last minute. He stopped in the middle of his sentence. Wait. Speaking of which, the so-called sorcery was originally created by primordial chaos and God Fiend according to the rules of the plane. And the assistant was already a person who had already broken away from the rules. As long as he understood the rules themselves, which was the heavenly Tao of this world, it was not impossible for him to create a never-before-seen sorcery. His heart jumped. He turned back to look at Chef. Both their eyes lit up. Obviously, they had also thought of this. Try it. Yes. I Ching nodded. The 2 of them took a step forward, closed their eyes, and released their divine perception. They scanned the starry sky in front of them. Instantly, the 2 of them felt like they were in an ocean. Wherever their divine perception reached, it was vast and boundless, as if it could not be reached at all. The 2 of them released their divine perception to the limit, but still could not reach the stars in the starry sky. It was as if it was far beyond their reach, far beyond the reach of their divine perception. In a short while, their foreheads were already covered in sweat. They looked like they were in pain. Are you guys surnamed Donkey? Shenning suddenly spoke. Have you forgotten who you are? The 2 of them paused. Only then did they remember the assistant seal in their bodies. They directly sensed for a moment. Almost instantly, their divine perception, which was a little difficult to extend, instantly spread out like a net, covering the entire starry sky. The originally vast and boundless 3,000 realms seemed to have suddenly shrunk. They could see everything clearly. One by one, the small worlds were incomparably clear, flashing in front of their eyes. What was amazing was that these small worlds were not like the transparent spheres when Shening controlled them. Instead, each and every one of them had different shapes and appearances. Taking a closer look, between the worlds, they were not independent. Instead, there seemed to be some kind of connection. They subconsciously followed that connection to see the entire 3 realms. The plane also became clearer and clearer. In the next moment, the entire divine realm also changed. Large patches of golden light shone out from the darkness. The originally scattered starlight began to gather. Thin golden lines began to connect the various small worlds, and all of them converged downwards. Only then did Lone Moon and I Ching open their eyes. They were directly shocked by the shining golden scene in front of them. This is the true appearance of this plane, Shening explained. The two of them were stunned. They exchanged a look, then looked at the scene in front of them again. It was a huge tree, a huge golden tree. The tree was shining with a dazzling golden light, extending endlessly in all directions, as if it covered the sky and covered the sun. Between the leaves were densely packed, and each leaf was a small world. This was their plane. As for how to find that small world just now, Shening turned and glanced at the two of them. She said coldly, "You don't need me to teach you anymore, do you?" She was indeed a qualified teacher? Just a little better than Big Sister. Why? Amazed face. Why, let me find it. Lone Moon was still in shock from the fact that the entire plane was in front of him. What's more, in that instant, countless rules surged into his mind. It was as if he had memorized an encyclopedia. He understood all the rules and laws of the plane instantly. Not only did he understand them completely, but he could even adjust them. Everything was under his control. This way, finding the small world where the immortal spring was just now would be a piece of cake. So he took a step forward and went under the tree. I Ching, on the other hand, turned and returned to Xin Ying's side. He took out a plate of pastries and handed it to her. "Master, you've been busy for so long. Do you want some pastries to fill your stomach? This is new too. I wonder if Master likes it." Pastries? Shen Ying's eyes lit up, but her expression did not change. She glanced at the pastries in his hand. After a while she said, "All right, I'll help you try it." She did not want to eat it at all. Carrot. I Ching's expression became even warmer. He smiled faintly. "Your disciple understands. Thank you, Master." Only then did she take it. With a serious expression, she stuffed one piece after another into her mouth, like a happy little hamster. "Found it." In less than the time it took to eat a piece of pastry, Lone Moon exclaimed in joy. In the next instant his voice deepened. How can this be? What small world was this?" Chapter 416. That small world was at the bottom left of the plane tree. It was different from the other leaf-shaped worlds. This small world was actually a mushroom. Lone Moon paused. He looked closely for a while, and realized that there really was a mushroom growing on the tree branch. And it was bright in color. It was out of place with the golden tree. This was also a small world? Why did a mushroom grow on a perfectly fine tree? Lone Moon looked confused. He released his divine perception into that small world. Instantly, the thousands of living beings in that small world appeared in front of him. The spirit chi here was thick. It was no different from other small worlds. What's going on? Lone Moon turned to look at the two people behind him. Shening quickly stuffed the last piece of pastry into her mouth. She stepped forward with a cold expression. She pulled out the light screen to check the data of this small world. After a while, she shook her head and said, "From the data, the interior of this small world is no different from other places. Could it be another special world created by the God Fiend?" Lone Moon frowned. A mushroom grew on a good tree. There must be something wrong with it, right? And the position of the mushroom was very remote. They would not notice it if they did not look closely. Shening frowned. She was about to explain when I Ching seemed to think of something. He said in a low voice, "If there's no problem now, it means that there was only an anomaly when the immortal spring appeared." What do you mean? Father Neo. I Ching stepped forward and said in a low voice. Do you remember the anomaly when the immortal spring formed? Anomaly? Wasn't it just immortal chi going berserk and gathering into a spring? He blurted out. There are many cases of immortal chi gathering in the immortal world, right? It's not really an anomaly. It's like using a large-scale immortal gathering sorcery, advancing to heavenly tribulation or... He suddenly stopped mid-sentence, and his eyes widened abruptly. Or ascended from the lower realm. I Ching directly said his last guess. Lone Moon frowned. You're saying that the immortal spring appeared because someone from the lower realm went through tribulation and ascended. He thought about the scene when the immortal spring appeared. Indeed, the scene of immortal chi gathering was exactly the same as when ascending from the lower realm. That's not right. He suddenly thought of something. If someone ascended, they should have formed an immortal ascension stage. Why did the immortal spring appear? And there was no guiding light to bring them up. Perhaps it failed, I Ching guessed. But why is it such a coincidence that it happens once every 100 years? Ascension wasn't like going to work, and he still had to clock in on time. I Ching frowned. This was also the reason why he could not figure it out. Perhaps this is what makes this small world different. Lone Moon's expression darkened. It looks like we still have to go to that small world to take a look. I'm not going. Shenning suddenly objected. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He glared at her and said, if we want to find out more about this mushroom, we have to go in and take a look. If you don't want to go, I'll go with Chef, all right? No. Shenning suddenly stepped forward, blocking his way stubbornly. You're not allowed to go. Why? Shenning stiffened. Her expression turned cold again. After a while she said, as assistants, you haven't met the passing standards. You don't have the qualifications to handle the plane independently. Be obedient. So what they did before wasn't right. I Ching glanced at Shenning and thought of something. He stepped forward and asked, Master, did you find something wrong? She faltered for a moment. Her face was still cold, but her eyes darkened. What did you find? Lone Moon's heart also sank. Nothing. Shenning replied. She glanced at the two of them, and then started talking incessantly. You don't have to ask. I'm not as brainless as you. You can't jump to conclusions without any basis. I won't say things like feeling that the other world is very abnormal, and it's best not to test it just in case. Everything has to be based on data. Guesses without any basis can't be taken as established facts. Instead of believing in something as illusory as a sixth sense, it's better to make more adjustments and preparations. So before you make sufficient preparations, you'd better stay put. I'm definitely not stopping you from going, because of this feeling. All this is because you raised a flag previously. Yes, that's it. Definitely. Oh, for all oh hashtag. She rattled off a lot of things without panting. She even nodded her head firmly at the end with a determined look on her face. Lone Moon. I Ching. She was worried about their safety. Was that why she stopped them? Would she die if she spoke nicely? Who did she learn such an awkward personality from? The two of them looked at each other speechlessly. After a while they both sighed. On account of her young age. Then let's not go. I Ching nodded. I'll think of other ways. Lone Moon shook his head too. He had to trust Shen Ying's feelings. And they believed her? Shen Ying's eyes lit up. She breathed a sigh of relief. Up to you. She snorted and turned her head. This is your own choice. It has nothing to do with me. Her expression. The two of them. Shenning said that the small mushroom world was abnormal. She suggested that they not go in directly, but they had to investigate why this small world looked different. What do you think we should do? Lone Moon looked at Chef. Although that mushroom doesn't seem to have any big problems, that small world has existed for a long time. I asked Yu Hong to find out. That immortal spring had appeared in ancient times. Now that the god fiend had fallen, he couldn't tell if it was a trap or not. Although we can't go in directly, it's not difficult to find out what's going on in this small world, I Ching said. You mean to send a clone down? Clone puppet spirit, anything works, I Ching said in a low voice. It's just a trace of divine perception. We can take it back at any time. Lo Moon nodded. That's true. In that case, I'll ask Boss Lon to make a Dharma artifact that can be attached to divine perception. It'll be safer that way. He frowned and glanced at the stove in front of him, which was filled with all kinds of ingredients. Speaking of which, the next time you talk to me, can you not choose the kitchen? And he was even cooking chili. He almost choked. No. I Ching rejected immediately. He said seriously, Master's body hasn't recovered yet. I have to make more food to help her recover as soon as possible. Lo Moon turned to look outside. A certain person was sitting at the dining table, holding a pair of chopsticks in both hands. His back was ramrod straight, and he looked serious as he waited for the meal to start. Are you sure you're not filling a bottomless pit? I Ching followed his gaze and looked over. As if recalling something, his eyes softened and his face blushed slightly. As long as Master liked it, he was willing to make as much as he wanted. The corner of Lo Moon's mouth twitched. Hey, that's enough. Can you mind your image? He scanned Chef from head to toe. Can you stop being so lovey-dovey in front of me? Can you understand my feelings as a single dog? I don't want to be fed dog food anymore, okay? We've been together for so long. Do you have to be like this? I Ching was stunned. He dropped the green pepper in his hand. His eyes darkened and he said slowly, Master and I are not like what you think. Like what? Lo Moon was stunned. His eyes widened as he thought of something. You're not going to say that you weren't together in the past, are you? I Ching picked up the green pepper that had fallen. Chapter 417. Holy shit. Was he blind before? Wait. When we were in that plane, didn't you? Shenning admitted herself. That was just a temporary measure Master used to get Elder Shen to agree to let her come back here. That means. Lo Moon's eyes widened. You actually haven't gotten her yet? I Ching stiffened. He lowered his head and began to pick up the chilies in his hands one by one. He was almost turning them into chili paste. Air. No wonder he had never smelled dog food before. He turned to look at a certain someone who was almost burying his head in the chili and patted him on the shoulder. Then you have to work hard. Try to win her heart before Shenning recovers. I Ching was stunned. He finally turned his head from the pile of chilies. He asked subconsciously why. Isn't that obvious? Lo Moon sighed and said earnestly, after all, she's getting older. She's not that easy to trick. If he didn't get her while she was still young and ignorant, when would he get her? Let me tell you, it's better to get a girl sooner rather than later. What's more, her mental age is only 15. Who knows, you might even be her first love. Lo Moon advised as if he had been through it all. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you don't make a move now, she'll probably get cheated by another wild man. I Ching panicked and retorted subconsciously, no. Master promised him that he would prioritize him. All right, even if there's no one else. He continued to persuade. When she fully recovers, think about it. With Shen Ying's original personality, it's not that she doesn't like you. She probably can't be bothered to like you. That seemed to make some sense. I got it. That's right. Lo Moon nodded. He finally found some familiarity with his father. Wait. He seemed to have tricked something. Chef just said that Shenning pretended to be a couple with Chef because she wanted to come back. Then, didn't he get beaten up for nothing? Flips table. Degree, Shun. Ing. Late at night. Invincible Heavenly Palace rear hall. Shun gulped down the fruit juice that Chef handed to her. Her eyes were wide open. After a while, she handed the empty cup over. I've tried it. And it's not bad. She couldn't help but smack her lips and add, if you have any new products that you want to try, take them out quickly. I won't be able to try them when I'm asleep. I really want to have another drink, but I can't say that. Winky face I Ching stared blankly at her sparkling eyes and laughed softly. His heart softened instantly. He turned and poured her another cup. Then I'll have to trouble Master to help me try again? And she nodded solemnly and gulped it down in a few gulps. She licked the corner of her mouth and her eyes shone even brighter. I Ching did not pour any more. He took the empty cup from her hand and put it away. You shouldn't drink too much of this sweet juice, or it will affect your sleep." As he spoke, he subconsciously tugged at his sleeve and habitually wiped the corner of her mouth that was still stained with the sweet juice. Shen Ying's body stiffened. She forgot to put down her already empty hand and kept it in a raised position. But her face quickly turned red as if it was burning. Her heart also started beating uncontrollably. Calm down, calm down. This was her boyfriend. This was normal. She wasn't shy at all. And definitely not. Asterisk Omega asterisk. Speaking of which, he seemed to have stayed longer than usual today. Could it be? I Ching was thinking about what Father Nyo had said, that she would be abducted by a wild man. He did not notice her expression. His hand subconsciously rubbed his sleeve. He hesitated for a while before opening his mouth to confirm. "Master, do you still remember? Aren't you going back today?" Before he had the chance to ask, Shenning spoke first. I Ching paused. Habitually, he dealt with Master's question first. He replied, "Is Master going to sleep now?" Sleep. He stayed because he wanted to sleep here." Shenning, who had completely misunderstood, blushed even more. She was at a loss. What to do? He really said it. However, they were originally boyfriend and girlfriend, and they had even met each other's parents, so it was normal for them to live together. Maybe they slept together in the past. Moreover, she quite liked this person who could cook delicious food and treated her even better than her older sister. As a manager, she was not afraid at all. She just didn't know how. "Are you sure?" I Ching paused. "You're sure?" "Sure about what?" "All right." Shenning, however, gritted her teeth and took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind about something. She said in a tone that was trying to hide something, "That I've already forgotten, so you have to teach me." "What?" Before he could react, Shenning suddenly leaned close to him. With lightning speed she smacked him. Bam! She kissed him on the lips. All I Ching felt was a clap of thunder in his head. His vision went white for a moment, and he could vaguely hear some heavenly music ringing in his ears. "Mas!" Before he could finish speaking, Shenning suddenly turned him around and pressed him down on the bed behind him. Following that, she climbed up on all fours and sat on top of him. She grabbed his collar and pulled it open, her eyes widening. It was exactly the same as when she saw food in the past. He looked delicious when he wasn't wearing any clothes. His chest felt cold, and I Ching finally reacted. His entire body was as red as a cooked shrimp. Even his chest, which had been pulled open, was dyed red. Master, you're sleeping," Shenning answered seriously, still with that cold little face, but there was a slight tremble in her hands. Fulfilling the duties of a girlfriend. Such strong muscles. They were named by him. He could touch them. The next moment, a pair of small, slightly cold hands caressed him. I Ching's entire body froze. His entire body followed her movements uncontrollably, igniting a strange flame that was even hotter than his true phoenix fire. It was as if it was going to burn him to ashes. Everything around him seemed to have disappeared, leaving only a blushing face in front of him that was pretending to be serious. It was incomparably clear. So clear that it made one want to devour it into their stomachs. "I'll be gentler." Shenning kissed his lips again, feeling a little excited. Hearing his heartbeat, which was even louder than hers, she could not help but comfort him. "Although I don't remember, Father Nyo said you're my boyfriend. Don't be afraid, I'll treat you well." That was how it was portrayed on television. She should not have said the wrong lines. But Shen Ying's hands slid lower and lower, looking like they were about to reach an indescribable place. In the next moment, I Ching suddenly flipped over and pressed the person on top of him under him. He locked her messy hands, turned and buried his head in the silky hair on the side of her neck, and stopped moving. Shenning was stunned. She struggled, but to no avail. Instead, the other party's grip tightened. Could it be that she missed some steps and did it wrong? Just as she was about to speak, she heard a low murmur, with a hint of accusation. "Master, don't bully me like this. I won't be able to hold it in." Chapter 418. Shenning was so suppressed that she could not move. All she could hear was the other party's heavy breathing. A moment later, She thought of a question and asked subconsciously, "You are not willing? That's going to be hard to deal with." He tightened his grip on her hand, and a chuckle traveled into her ears. She could faintly feel his breathing quickening. His tone was low, as if he was suppressing something. "No matter what Master does, I am willing." Even more so than what he wished for. "Then what are you doing?" She was stunned. She struggled to move her hand, but it was tightened again. "Don't move." His voice was urgent. His whole body was frighteningly hot. Even though they were separated by a layer of clothes, Shening felt that all the places that were pressed by him were burning hot. After a while, she heard his pleading voice. "Master, just like this for a while, all right?" Shenying's heart softened for no reason. She obediently stopped moving. She did not know how much time had passed. Only when the rapid breathing by her ears began to calm down, did he speak again in a low voice, with a hint of grievance. "Master, do you like me?" Shening was stunned. Before she could respond, he spoke first. "I like Master. I have always liked you. In the past, Master said that you only liked me a little, but you don't remember. Now that I am like this, does it means that I like you a little more?" Shening, who had received an unexpected confession, stiffened. Her already red face became even redder, and her heart beat faster. She panicked. What should she do? This was the first time she had received a confession. She did not know how to answer. After a while, she squeezed out a voice. My sister said that as women, we must be brave to do and take responsibility. It is the same for matters of the heart. Besides, there is no one in this world who can force me, except for my sister. Since I have already admitted that you are my boyfriend, of course I like you. Don't worry, I will take responsibility for you." The person in front of her stiffened. In the next moment, his whole body trembled slightly, as if he had heard some great news. Even though his face could not be seen, his whole body was filled with joy. I Ching did not reply. He only called out to the person in his arms over and over again. With a thick nasal voice he said, "Master! Master! Master!" Each sound was heavier than the last. It was as if someone was knocking on his heart, causing his heart to tremble. Shening suddenly felt even hungrier. She subconsciously asked, "Can we continue?" It was a little heavy. She preferred to be on top. The person in front of her was stunned. After a while she finally moved. In the next moment, something imprinted on her forehead. "Not now." Shening stared blankly. He had already taken off his pants. And he still wouldn't let him eat. I Ching then got up slightly and looked at the person below him. Her eyes were still watery, as if she was hiding something in the mist. "Master is still young." His expression darkened, and he looked straight into her eyes, as if he only had eyes for the person in front of him. "Although I'm very happy that you finally responded to me, but I can't take advantage of you like this." Just like Father Nyo said, she was only 15 years old now. Perhaps even she herself did not know if this feeling was real. He could not be so despicable. One day she would recover, and if that time, Master also admitted it, then he would never let go. "I will wait for the day I recover." Shening was stunned for a moment. Her mind was full of question marks. Didn't Big Sister say that once a man is in bed, he will become a beast, the kind that can't even stop? So she had to choose the best one to take the lead? Why was her boyfriend different? And what did she mean by recover? What did she mean by recover? Could it be, her heart sank, and her gaze subconsciously looked down. Could it be that when she met the parents, Big Sister really broke a leg? Just not that kind of leg. That's why he was unwilling. So pitiful. She suddenly had the urge to pull open a certain person's pants to confirm. I Ching completely did not know that a certain person's thoughts had already drifted to the secondary plane. Trying hard to suppress the agitation in her heart, she was just about to sit up. A familiar voice suddenly sounded beside their ears. "Cough. Well, Shin 15th Chef, come to the side hall after you're done." Lone Moon could not find Chef in the side hall. To avoid seeing any unsightly scenes, he decisively chose to send a voice transmission. The divine perception that was sent to the small mushroom world a few days ago has returned. Lone Moon waited in the room for a full 20 minutes before Shening and Chef pushed the door open and entered. Why are you so slow? He looked up. It was only a turn from the back hall to the side hall. You guys. Chef, what happened to your clothes? He scanned Chef from head to toe. The person who was always neatly dressed in the past had a crooked collar and a tear on the side of his body. Yet he did not seem to notice. I Ching's body stiffened. He subconsciously wanted to look at the person beside him, but resisted the urge. He hurriedly replied, It's nothing. I accidentally cut myself while practicing swordplay. Practicing swordplay in the middle of the night? Lone Moon frowned. I Ching stiffened even more. He could only nod vigorously. Yes. Shening, who was at the side, quietly sat down at the table. With a cold expression that never changed, she pretended not to know anything. Lone Moon did not ask in detail. He pointed to the chair beside him and said, All right, come in quickly. The matter with that mushroom has been investigated. Only then did the two see that there was a figure standing behind him. A figure that looked exactly like Lone Moon. Only his expression was a little dull. He stood there motionlessly. It was the clone that he sent into the small world a few days ago. Lone Moon raised his hand and conjured a seal at that clone. Instantly, a wisp of white chi flew out of his body and entered Lone Moon's palm. And the person who looked exactly like Father Nyo turned into an octagonal bronze mirror in a flash. Lone Moon waved his hand. The bronze mirror immediately emitted a white light. Like a projection, scenes of the lower realm appeared in front of the few of them. I used my divine perception to control this clone to fly all over that small world. Lone Moon explained. What is shown in this mirror is everything it saw in the lower realm. I Ching stepped forward and looked at the scenes carefully. There were mortal realms with thin spirit chi. There were also spirit mountains and blessed lands where cultivators gathered. There were even scenes of cultivators fighting in the lower realm. It could be said that the investigation was very thorough. There's nothing wrong with just looking at the scenes in this picture? I Ching frowned and turned back to look at Lone Moon. When I first looked at it, I also felt that there was nothing wrong. Lone Moon nodded. But after looking at it, I feel that something is missing. What's missing? I Ching hesitated. Just as he was about to ask, Shening beside him spoke first. Missing the river of forgetfulness. Chapter 419. That's right, it's the river of forgetfulness. Lone Moon nodded hard and pointed at the images. This small world actually has no tributary of the river of forgetfulness at all, as if it's completely isolated. I Ching was shocked and opened the assistant's authority to look at the images carefully, but found that the images had not changed at all. Although the ground was lush, there was no aura of the river of forgetfulness below. Why is it like this? There were so many living people in this small world? Not only that. Lone Moon raised his hand and brushed the octagonal bronze mirror. The images in front of him enlarged instantly. The figures that were originally the size of ants appeared clearly in front of him, and their voices were heard. This was a mortal city market. Father Nyo's clone seemed to be sitting in a restaurant. The waiter beside him was recommending good wine. Sir, would you like a pot of our shop's origin green wine? Our shopkeeper personally brewed it. It's been sealed for more than 200 years. Or you can try the scorching red wine, 100-year-old wine, also brewed by our shopkeeper. With that said, he pointed to the bearded shopkeeper at the door. 200 years. I Ching was shocked. This person is a mortal. Lone Moon confirmed. A mortal without spirit chi or spirit roots. But a mortal's lifespan is not more than 100 years. How did he? He stopped mid-sentence, as if thinking of something. His eyes widened suddenly. Because of the river of forgetfulness. That's right. Lone Moon nodded. In this small world, be it mortals or cultivators, they all seem to be out of samsara. I Ching's expression darkened. Without the river of forgetfulness, ghosts could not enter samsara after death. Could this place be the same as Song Ren's world? No, it's not the same. Lone Moon shook his head. Song Ren's plane was repaired and caused chaos in the river of forgetfulness. But there is no river of forgetfulness flowing through this world. As if it was deliberately bypassed, completely isolated. Everyone in this world has no concept of death, and there are no newborns. So they don't die. Yes. Lone Moon conjured another seal and brought up the scene of two cultivators fighting. Both of their cultivations were not low, both soul formation cultivations. Those attacks were clearly very fierce. Some were even fatal, but both of them showed no signs of dying, no signs of their souls leaving their bodies. The more I Ching looked, the deeper his frown became. If this goes on, I'm afraid the people of this small world, they will all disappear. Lone Moon sighed and kept the copper mirror. Shorty had once said that every soul had a limited amount of time in the world. The longer it was, the more it would deplete the soul. The so-called cultivation technique was actually just to strengthen the soul body and allow it to stay longer. Only the river of forgetfulness could mend one's soul. So the first and final destination of all living beings in the world was the river of forgetfulness. In this mushroom world, everyone seemed to be immortal, but their souls were slowly being consumed. One day, they would completely disappear. Why is this small world the only one that is isolated? Shorty couldn't have forgotten. I Ching turned to look at Shining. Master, what do you think? Shining frowned. She raised her hand and tapped on her wristband. Instantly a screen appeared. In the next instant, the huge plane tree appeared in front of the two of them. She immediately located the mushroom world and zoomed in on the connection point. A huge patch of golden light lit up, so blinding that they could not open their eyes. Shining adjusted something at the last moment, and the golden light dimmed. It turned into thousands of silk threads, intertwining and extending in all directions. This is the river of forgetfulness. The golden river was filled with dense soul power. It should be the river of forgetfulness that gathered souls. Look over there. Shining pointed to the surroundings of the mushroom world. Indeed, there were originally many crisscrossing thin threads, but none of them were connected to that mushroom. It was as if they deliberately avoided it. What is Shorty doing? It really was because of the river of forgetfulness. Lone Moon was a little angry. Why did she leave out this world? It probably has nothing to do with her, I Ching said in a low voice. Although she is the river of forgetfulness itself, she does not completely understand everything about the small world. Moreover, there was no river of forgetfulness in this small world. Back then, these things were probably all watched by Godfiend. Otherwise, Godfiend would not have asked them to look for Mengpa all over the world for what happened in the demon realm. We can't go on like this. We can't watch this world disappear completely, although it will not affect other small worlds, Lone Moon said in a low voice. Who said it won't affect other small worlds? Shining glared at him coldly. What do you mean? Lone Moon was stunned. She then reminded him seriously. Did you forget that there's still that door? Realm door. I Ching was shocked. He immediately remembered. Indeed, although this world seemed to be isolated and had completely broken away from samsara, which meant that no souls would enter this world. But as long as the realm door could be open, people from other small worlds could completely break through the void and enter this world. Didn't you say that cultivators above the soul formation stage could open the mortal realm door? If they opened the realm door to this small world, Shining turned and glanced at the two of them. What will happen? The two of them were shocked. Above the soul formation stage was the realm of ascension. If they suddenly entered a world without death, then they will think that it is the immortal world, and they would not even think of leaving. Shining nodded. These two assistants had quick reactions. They deserved to be praised. What should we do next? Do you need me to remind your pig brains again? I Ching. Lone Moon. Shin Dis 15. When he wasn't dissing people, it was still possible to communicate. Alright, I'll go to Qingyu's place at the back of the mountain and inform Shorty. Lone Moon took a deep breath and stood up. He did not want to argue with a 15-year-old brat. Tomorrow, I'll go to this small world and reconnect the river of forgetfulness. With that, he turned around and walked out of the door. The room instantly quieted down, leaving only the master and disciple. I Ching's heart trembled for no reason. The burning feeling that he had suppressed earlier was showing signs of recovering, and the side of his face began to redden again. He turned to look at Shining, who was still sitting at the table. Master, Shining didn't reply. She stared at the plain map on the screen, deep in thought. Master? He could only call out again. Ah, we can go back now. He tried to steady his voice and said in a low voice. It's late. I'll send Master back to her room. Shen Ying's body stiffened. After a while, she stood up slowly and walked to I Ching's side. Oh. I Ching clenched his fists and took a deep breath. After hesitating for a while, he seemed to muster up all his courage and quickly reached out to grab her right hand. Then he held it tightly and walked out the door. Let's go. Shen Ying was stunned for a moment. Thinking of the unfinished exercise just now, she could not help but blush slightly. As she walked, she subconsciously looked down at a certain person's lower body. It can't be true, right? A while later, Chef. Why don't you take off your pants and let me take a look? What if it's already healed? I Ching's foot stumbled. He lost his balance and fell forward. Chapter 420. Father Nyo brought little Shorty to the mushroom world to mend the river of forgetfulness. He left for a few days. Shen Ying and I Ching were extremely leisurely, but Shen Ying could clearly feel that Chef was avoiding her. Although he looked as usual and did not miss any of the 5 meals a day, Shen Ying just could not see his face. Every day when she woke up, breakfast would already be on the table. When she went out to water the house, lunch would already be on the table. Dinner, supper, and afternoon tea would also be on time. However, Chef would never appear in front of her. Every day, he was either hiding in the kitchen or on the way to the kitchen. Shen Ying seriously recalled her own words and actions, and was even more sure that her sister had done something inhumane to him. Otherwise, he would not be so abnormal. She must have accidentally poked his sore spot that day. Although she was already very tactful, but with the technology of this world, he should have long been cured. Could there be some special circumstances? She heard that men who suffered such injuries would usually have some psychological trauma or something. It was normal for him to not be able to accept it after being exposed for the first time. So he kept avoiding her. She turned to look at a certain figure who had been hiding in the kitchen for a few days. He picked up the last piece of cake on the table and stuffed it into his mouth, clapped his hands, then got up and walked towards the kitchen. Whether as master, girlfriend, or manager, she felt that she should take a look and figure out the truth. Chef. She stopped directly at the entrance of the kitchen and called out. The figure who was busy stiffened, his hands trembled, and he almost threw the spatula away. After a while he turned back stiffly. Master, have you finished eating the cake? Yes. And no. Shen Ying's eyes uncontrollably fixed on the cake on the stove. This plate also looked very fragrant. I'll send it over right now. With that said, he seemed to be hiding something. Hurriedly picked up the few plates of cake that had been prepared on the stove and walked out quickly, as if he was escaping, his face flushed red. He directly put down the cake on the table in the courtyard and conveniently took away the empty plate on the table. Shen Ying followed him all the way and glanced at the fragrant food on the table. Seeing that he was about to retreat back into the kitchen, she suddenly remembered something and grabbed him. Wait, don't go. Chef paused, his entire body stiffening even more. He subconsciously looked down at his hand that was being held, his heart beating like a drum. Master? Shen Ying, however, reached out and pulled him down onto the chair next to her. With both hands on the armrests, she pushed him down onto the chair and said seriously, As a professional manager, I think I should have a good chat with you. I Ching looked at the person who suddenly approached him. He felt as if there was an explosion in his mind. His whole body was like a cooked prawn. His eyes widened, and even his voice trembled. What? Don't be afraid. I'm different from my sister. I'm very gentle. Shen Ying tried her best to calm her tone. You have to know that as long as you are mentally prepared for this kind of thing, nothing will happen. But you still have to face it. It's not good to hide your illness for fear of treatment. Why don't you take off your pants and let me see? At most, I'll be gentler. After all, she had studied treatment theory for a period of time. As she said that, she directly began to pull at his belt. Just one look. Master. I Ching finally reacted and grabbed her hand. You can't. It was still daytime. Shening faltered. She glanced at his flushed face and instantly understood something. Is it that I can't see? No, Master I. What if Master keeps wanting to take off my pants? I have to wait. I understand. But she nodded and finally retracted her hand. I Ching felt empty in his heart for no reason. In the next moment he heard her say, Then I'll ask Father Neo to come and see, okay? You should be willing to let him see. Wait. What did this have to do with Father Neo? Could Master have misunderstood? He and Father Neo. I don't remember anything in the past. But your relationship with him seems to be better than mine. If you're only willing to let him see, I don't mind. Don't worry, I'll call him over now. I Ching's face turned green. He directly stood up from the chair and said resolutely, I don't have that kind of relationship with him. What relationship? Anyway, I only have Master in my heart. Although now is not the time. He grabbed Shenying's hand. As if he was being forced, he said loudly, word by word. But other than you, I will definitely not let anyone else take off my pants, including Father Neo. Shenying. Lone Moon, who just entered the door. Did he enter the wrong place? Winky face ******. What are you doing? Lone Moon could not help but ask. He looked at the two in front of him with black lines on his forehead. The two faltered and then turned back. Shenying hurriedly put away her caring big sister style, and instantly changed back to that cold look. Although in the eyes of others there was no difference at all. You're back. She looked down at the time on her wristband. So fast. 128 hours, 45 minutes and 6 seconds. This kind of efficiency barely meets the passing standards of an assistant. Lone Moon walked straight over and sat down at the side before continuing. I just ran around that small world and rearranged the river of forgetfulness. What's more, I didn't have to do anything. Of course it's fast. Where's Shorty? I Ching looked towards the door. He did not see Mangpa return with him. Oh, she went back to the underworld. Lone Moon replied casually. After all, it's reconnecting to a new world. There are still some follow-up matters that need to be dealt with. I Ching nodded and did not ask further. I just came over to tell you. Don't worry, everything is fine over there. This matter has been resolved. Save you trouble. Lone Moon looked at the two of them and said, These few days, there's a pile of things in the sect that have not been dealt with. You'd better not make trouble for me. I'll go do my work first. With that said, he did not intend to stay any longer. He directly stood up and walked out. Shenying looked at the untouched pastry on the table and suddenly said, Father Neo. What now? Lone Moon stopped in his tracks and turned back. Shenying then picked up a pastry and pinched it in her hand. She turned to look at I Ching beside her. It seems like it's almost the end of the month. I Ching hesitated for a moment. A moment later, something flashed across his eyes. His eyes widened, and he turned to look at Lone Moon, who was at the door. He said cooperatively, Master is right. Father Neo, it's time to give out next month's living expenses. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Only then did he take out a bag of immortal stones from the storage bag beside him. Got it. When have I not given you enough? With that said, he raised his hand and threw it out. Seeing that bag fly through the air, Shenying's expression darkened. As if she had confirmed something, she shouted, Chef. In the next moment, I Ching at the side had already rushed out with his sword in hand. The sharp tip of the sword went straight towards Lone Moon. A binding array lit up at the same time. Sword chi instantly filled the entire rear hall. Lone Moon was shocked. It was already too late for him to retreat. The sword in I Ching's hand was already coming towards him. He frantically tried to dodge, but he still could not. His entire chest was directly cut open by the sword. Instantly blood flowed out. If not for his immortal body, he would probably have been killed. Lone Moon's expression was one of disbelief. He turned to look at the person who attacked. Holy shit! I Ching, what are you? Before he could finish speaking, more than 10 swords formed from god power fell from the sky. The swords pierced into his bones and directly pinned him to the ground like nails. He was trapped in the array and could not move. You called me by the wrong name. I Ching said word by word. Unless necessary, Father Neo never calls me by my Dao name. He indeed acted very well, but Father Neo never forgot to give out living expenses. He also never gave out money so easily. When did he not nag for an hour? Who are you? Shenning also walked over and sized up the person on the ground. Or should I say, what are you? That you're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.